We be live. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Guys, we're here. Me and Susie, we're here to cover some stories, some interesting stories today. Oh, yes, great. Guys, people in the live chat, let's see who's here. D is here. Amika is here. Mujisu is here. Born Only Once is here. Yes, please like the stream. Please go ahead and like the stream, guys. So, Susie, today's stories, are they, people are looking for good news? Do we have bad news? Do we have tragic news? We have some, ridiculous news, funny.
We have good news. We have worrying news. We have outrageous news, but that's going to be like, we can really unpack some stuff. And then we have some news that I think is very like resilient, right?
Right.
Because for me, it's not only important for us to talk about the dangers of very destructive ideologies, lately mostly Islamism and Islam, but I think it's also really important to highlight people's resilience and the most totalitarian form of it, right? The human spirit, just innately reaches for freedom, and I want to highlight those people. You know what I mean?
Right. So we have Islam. All of it is Islam. So here's the titles. Okay, the first story that we're covering: Islamist propaganda backfires. Canada takes a stand. That's the first one today. The second one: Iran's mandatory hijab law claims another victim. Number 3 is Iraq pushes to legalize child marriage as young as 9 years old. So the fourth one today is in Austria. ISIS threats shut down Taylor Swift's Vienna concerts after terror plot. And the last one, the fifth one, is defying the Taliban inside Afghanistan's secret beauty salons. Wow, okay, that's pretty interesting. So the Canada one, I'm really waiting for that one. Amir Hussein is asking, why are you not covering any LGBT related news? We have been. Well, but it has to be on the news. We do. We have been. I don't know what you're talking about.
Something specific? Okay.
Yeah, make suggestions.
Is it relevant, or should we just cover it for the sake of it being LGBT? Because that's not good enough for me. And also, Sandra is saying, hello, everyone. Is Armin going to scream at me again today? If you're lucky, Sandra. If you're lucky.
Okay. Okay. So we got a super chat and a member.
This became a new YouTube member. Thank you for joining Satan's Minions, which is an amazing reminder to everyone to please become a member to support the channel. You can do so by hitting the join button down there. But if you do so, you get exclusive members only content and our emojis, which are quite nice. And there's other ways to support the channel as well. If you don't want to do it through YouTube membership, all the links are in the description, which is a good reminder that if you're watching this on Twitter, go over to YouTube to find those links and subscribe.
Yeah, but by the way, I'm starting to make at least one member only content a week, hopefully. So we're gonna have a lot of member only content for people. Nice. Streams, yeah. So for people who are members. So there we go.
And Angel LR, again, just really coming through to prove that she's the biggest sugar mama of all. It's quite aggressive. Thank you, Angel, for your insane generosity. Saying good morning, everyone. I hope we're all enjoying it so far. Don't forget to like the stream and comment after, and using just such a generous donation simply to promo our own stuff. It's incredible. And Jean is endorsing the members only streams, saying they're great.
They're great, yes. And also Amir Hussein is endorsing Angel, saying Angel saved the day. Yes, our Angel saving the day. Back off, Amir Hussein, she's ours.
Guardian Angel.
Guardian, yes. Anyways, let's bring up. Okay, so I'm assuming today. Okay, the first one is clapworthy, right? If this is not clapworthy, I don't know what is, right?
Oh, this is juicy.
Okay, all right, let's do it. First news.
Islamist propaganda backfires. Canada takes a stand. This is going to be very interesting, Armin. In a contentious turn of events, Birju Dattani, Canada's newly appointed Human Rights Commissioner, resigned before even stepping in his office amid a storm of controversy. The resignation followed an investigation into his appointment, sparked by fierce opposition from Canadian Jewish organizations over his remarks on Israel and his undisclosed use of a second name. The second name was Mujahid Dattani. The investigation revealed several troubling aspects of Dattani's past, including his promotion of articles comparing Israel to Nazi Germany and equating Palestinians to Holocaust victims on social media. Additionally, Dattani admitted to unwittingly speaking on panels with members of Hizb Tahrir, an Islamist organization that explicitly seeks Israel's destruction, and Mozan Beg, a former Guantanamo Bay detainee once described as a confirmed member of Al-Qaeda. The report also highlighted Dattani's use of the pseudonym Mujahid in certain contexts and his failure to disclose this information during the application process. As noted in the investigative report, Dattani's efforts to downplay the critical nature of his work was concerning, and certainly his failure to directly disclose this work deprived the government of the opportunity to have a discussion. This incident has ignited a debate about the vetting process for high-profile appointments within the Canadian government and the delicate balance between personal beliefs and public office responsibilities, while also highlighting the ongoing tensions surrounding discussions of Israel and Palestine in Canadian politics. So let's take a step back and do an overview of what's going on here. So basically, this man, Birju Dattani, was appointed the director of the Canadian Human Rights Commission. And this is important because among the many responsibilities of the Canadian Human Rights Commission, one of the things is especially basically going after people that say hurtful things that hurt your fifis on the internet. Because unfortunately, Canada does not have free expression the way that we do in the United States. And they can come after you.
No one does, apparently.
Yeah, apparently no one does, and well, I'm gonna save my American thumb chesting for later. Chest thumping. I'll keep it in the box for now. Anyways, so that's having that kind of responsibility in a position of power makes your beliefs and your history of expressing those beliefs and any activism that you might have particularly important. I think we would both agree if you're going to be given that kind of power. And when this man was appointed to this position, a lot of people started to become a little bit concerned about some of his social media activity and some of his history. And basically, it turned into a situation where there was an investigation. They're like, okay, there's a lot of like outcry into this man's appointment. Like, let's investigate what's going on here. And they found that when he was applying for this position, which I think was originally back in 2022, he did not disclose many aspects of his personal history to the Canadian government. One of the things that you're supposed to do in a position of this importance, when you're going to work for the Canadian government, is you have to disclose any previous names you have ever gone by, any names you have ever used. You have to disclose social media accounts that you previously used. You have to talk about speaking engagements you did, dissertations, articles you published, you know, and maybe activism. You know, you have to talk about your prior activity that is politically relevant, and you have to be forthcoming about your identity. So the thing is that this man apparently grew up in a Hindu background, and he converted to Islam. And when he converted to Islam, he took on the name Mujahid. And he didn't talk about this.
Somebody who does jihad, basically, Mujahid. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, like Mujahideen. And he didn't disclose this on his application. In the investigation that they did, apparently he was like, "Oh, I didn't understand that that's what this meant." The problem is that the investigation found that this man did not use this second name just as a whimsy. When he chose to use this second name is very deliberate. He would do it when appearing on panels. He would do it when speaking to anti-Israel protests at the Israeli embassy. He would do it when speaking particularly to heavily Muslim audiences. And then apparently later in his life, he went back to using his birth name, Burju. But the government was like, this is not just an unintentional, oh, I used to sometimes use this name and whatever, I just forgot about it and it wasn't that consistent. They're like, no, there's clearly a pattern of consistency about when you're going by a specific name to, I guess, in a sense, like divvy up your identity, so to speak. You know, like some people have different names that they work with than what they actually go by in their real life, especially in the activism sphere. And so they found that he deliberately and intentionally omitted a lot of details about his past. And what was so funny is that the National Council of Canadian Muslims declared that this was a witch hunt, that they are going on a witch hunt of racialized people. And that, quote, it's fine to drag every appointee through the mud as long as they're brown and Muslim. Which is hilarious and ironic because the National Council of Canadian Muslims went on a witch hunt several years ago, and the consequences are still ongoing today against the Alberta Human Rights Commissioner. Let me give you guys a little history lesson, okay? There was a man, his name was Colin May, and he had a really impressive resume of public service in the Canadian sphere and also internationally. He was appointed to the position of Alberta's Human Rights Commissioner. And there was a celebration because he was the first gay man in this position. So it's like, okay, look at how this is progress, right? Okay, not so fast. Because very quickly, the National Council of Canadian Muslims went after this man. They went after Colin May. They slandered his name and they drug him through the mud and sought to destroy his reputation. Now, you might ask, why would they do this against Colin May? This is because Colin May, get a load of this, 13 years before his appointment, he had written a book review of a historian's book about Islamic imperialism. And in his book review, he talked about Islam as a expansionist, ideology that had the idea of empire as a very important part of its ideology. And just talking about the history of Islamic empire and conquest, which is a historical fact. And because of this,
and they're proud of that. Like, what? This is not even contested. This is part of Islamic history, and they're proud of them being. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
He was tarred as an Islamophobe and a racist, and the National Council of Canadian Muslims basically ended his career in public service in Canada after a very impressive history and resume of service that he's lent to the Canadian citizenry. They called him racist and Islamophobic for a book review 13 years before, alleging that his kind of attitudes was what was endangering Black Muslim women. For a book review that people didn't like 13 years beforehand. And he was Islamophobic and racist. So it's so funny how quickly people go from celebrating, oh my God, yay! Look at the progress and accomplishment of electing, putting a gay man in this position, to dragging him through the mud and ending his career in public office. And I heavily encourage people, especially Canadians, to go look up. There's a lot of details about this online, like in the National Post, about what happened to Colin May. Because it is really a warning for what happens when people on the lefty side of things decide to partner with Islamists. Because, you know, what Armin was talking a lot about his live stream yesterday, what pro-Palestine doesn't care about Black lives, go watch the stream that Armin did yesterday, is that nothing less than total submission is going to be good enough. And Colin has taken action to have legal restitution for what was done to him that was so unfair and so wrong and so slanderous. And it's so, and full disclosure, I have met Colin May. I've actually had the pleasure of working with him. An amazing man. Like, I am so impressed by this man. And it's so wrong to slander someone as racist for the accusation of Islamophobia. One, it doesn't even make sense. But two, for someone of his caliber, like, he and his partner went out of their way to help Arab men who were being persecuted for their HIV status, and like help them find safety and security, help them flee their country because of their HIV status, and told no one. They just did it because that mattered to them. Right? And then to be completely abandoned by your party, your coworkers, your colleagues, and slandered and dragged through the mud as a racist and Islamophobe because you're talking about, but did a book review over a decade before about Islamic conquest. It's so wrong and reprehensible. And now an incredibly gifted, smart man is no longer in service to the Canadian public. So that's why I think it's so freaking ironic that the National Council of Canadian Muslims is now cry bullying over the fact that this man was pulled from his, he resigned. He was basically forced to resign, investigated, and then resigned before attaining office at the Canadian Human Rights Commission because of extremely concerning activity where he unwittingly did panels with Hizb Tahrir, talking with self-admitted Al-Qaeda operatives, not being honest about his name, posting worrying content against the Israeli state. And the Jewish community is like, I have concerns. Is this a person who's going to be in charge of policing my speech rights? Is he going to be applying standards equally? Is he going to be doing a good job when there's a huge spike in anti-Semitism in Canada? I have concerns. I think these are very valid concerns. Yeah, go ahead.
The fact that it takes this level of, anti-Semitic or other problematic views for somebody to get removed. Actually, I mean, this is supposed to be good news, but I consider this a bad news, because it has to get to this level for it to be even starting to be problematic. Like, imagine all the other Muslims who haven't gotten to this level but still have views that are illiberal, and the double standard means that they could still climb the ladder of politics in a way that other people with similar views that wasn't within the framework of Islam would not be able to, that there would be harder backlash against them. But they are careful enough not to go as far as this guy for them to be removed, but still problematic enough for them to be a threat to the liberal values and the Western values in Canada. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, again, these people represent the tip of the iceberg, and I think like there's a lot more there that will never get removed. That they will, and even if there's a pushback against them, they have an Islamic defense. Like, because it comes in the form of Islam, the pushback against them is going to be a lot weaker than it may. Like, for example, let's say there were Christians with the same level of conservative or views, or some illiberal, let's not say conservative, illiberal views, because some conservative views are liberal, but some illiberal views, but if it was in the framework of Christianity, like, Canadian society would have had a much more aggressive allergic reaction to that threat to their way of life or to their values. But with the branding of Islam, then you get a lot more protection. It only has to get this bad for there to be a reaction to it.
It gets worse. It actually gets worse. Because when you read about this story in like Reuters, it would make it seem as if this man's criticism of Israel is what got him out of this position. According to Jewish News Service, Tatani also provided a draft copy of his PhD dissertation, which he summarized for a Muslim audience, describing terrorism as, quote, a rational and well-calculated strategy that is pursued with surprisingly high success rates. He was going to sit one of the largest, most important human rights bodies in the Canadian federal government.
We can't even, like, with that view, you can't even have like a YouTube account if you have that view and say that. Like, you get stricken out of, like, what the, like, you would not survive on social media with that view, and then let alone holding a political. Okay, wow, Jesus Christ.
And the investigation that made it so that this man.
Somebody, by the way, somebody's saying that is kind of true though. But I know, but if you say so, the effectiveness of it might be true, but somebody with that background saying it, okay, that is, imagine if we said it, people would not look so kindly to that language. Like, I'm just saying there's a double standard here, whatever your opinion about that is. But go on.
So, but the investigation against him did not find. The official investigation said that we did not find evidence of him being anti-Semitic. We found that he made careful distinctions between criticizing the Israeli government versus Israeli people or Jewish people. And according to the government, the reason why they're actually getting rid of him, or did this investigation against him, and that he willfully resigned, let me be clear, is because of him not being forthcoming and honest about the nature of his history and past. And he tried to say, like, oh, well, he didn't understand maybe the nature of certain questions in the application, in the vetting form, or, oh, I just kind of used this name on a whimsy, blah, blah, blah. And they were not buying it. They weren't buying it. And, credit where credit is due, because one of the people involved in initiating this investigation against him himself was actually a Canadian of a Muslim background. Credit where credit is due. And I forget what his name is, something Varani. And he was like, no, we can't have this. He very strongly worded emails were sent. Be like, we're not going to tolerate this. Yeah. And so the Jewish News Service talked to Colin May, who himself went through a witch hunt at the hands of the National Council of Canadian Muslims about his opinion on this, and he expressed little sympathy for Tatani, saying sharing a stage with a member of Hizb Tahrir is not a mistake. It is not something that just happens as though one is sharing a stage with other academics. Hizb Tahrir is a notorious terrorist organization banned not only in the UK but in Germany, Indonesia, and most Arab countries. Its stated goals are the creation of a strict Islamic caliphate and the implementation of Sharia globally, along with the elimination of Israel. Hizb Tahrir does not routinely appear on panels with those that are not in support of its agenda, raising questions about why Mr. Tatani would be engaged in any format with this group, while also under his alias using his middle name.
Yeah, so why did that not get him in trouble? Why you were just didn't tell us about your activity. If you told us about your working with these terrorist groups, would that be fine with the Canadian government? Like, oh, the issue is not that you're talking with these guys and you're having a good relationship with them. The issue is that you didn't tell us. So does that imply that the Canadian government would have been fine if they just knew?
You know, to be fair, I don't know. You know, part of me wonders if this is a situation where the government, based on technicality and legal proceedings, says that the reason is this one thing, but really it's a totality of other things. But the burden of proof on this technicality, which is not as bad, is easier to establish should there be court proceedings. So that's what they're going. Does that make sense?
Yeah. They're like, let's just get rid of you. Let's just use the easiest way to get rid of you without making this legally difficult. Huh?
Yeah, I'm not fluent in the interworkings of the Canadian federal government, but that seems reasonable. Because that's how a lot of things go. It's like we got.
Where do you think we're gonna be? Where do you think we're gonna be 10 years from now? Like, I don't know, in Canada, in the UK, in Germany, because this is like 10 years ago. The level of influence that some of these, people with Islamic mindsets they have in politics. If you were 10 years ago, and I told you that right now in the UK, Corbyn is making a new party of Islamists. Did you see that? So, 10 years ago, if anybody mentioned that this is going to happen 10 years from now, people like, no way. Right, but I'm thinking, like, is this trend going to continue? And what is our politics going to look like in Canada or in the UK or in Germany? Are we going to have like a lot of Islamist parties, and we have to like now take them? The things that they are not saying, the things that are getting them removed, are these the same things that at some point is going to be the official position of certain parties within these countries? Like, is that what we're looking?
Quiet part out loud.
Yeah, not only out loud, the official manifesto of our party in Canada. Like, is that what we have to look forward to? Okay, I don't know. I don't know.
Part of me is I'm a bit conflicted because I see around me, and maybe it's because this is the world that I swim in. Like, this is what I spend like all my time on. I see a real thirst for movements and individuals and organization to counter this. At the same time, I don't know how much of that is my own personal bias. Then on the other hand, the rest of me is like, the problem is that is it too little too late? because what a lot of people don't understand is how organized the Islamists are in Western countries. They have been established for many decades now. They have funding networks that are very well established. They have their own little internal economic system where they're all funding each other, like all the way down, like Islamic schools getting their pencils from Islamist manufacturers, everything down to the uniforms. You know, like they're the there is a very well entrenched network, and their institutions have and organizations have been operating and building a base and building political capital and building force within the political body for decades. If people are waking up now and starting to mobilize and, you know, get interested in the nature of this threat and want demand action behind it, are they organized enough? Do they understand the nature of this well enough? I don't know. I don't know. When it comes to the United States, I know we have that down. I know we have that down because I feel incredibly honored to be working with some of the leading people studying the funding networks, like investigating different think tanks that they influence, in investigating, you know, where the money is going, how the nonprofit system is abused, how they're posting, like Islamist nonprofits are posting, you know, side by sides with different terrorist groups in Gaza. Like in the United States, I feel very secure in that we have extremely skilled and intelligent people working thoroughly on this issue. They're tracking this with a fine-toothed comb, like a freaking, I don't even know, like a neurosurgeon just in there. However, that being said, I don't know to the extent that they have that in other countries. For example, like the think tank field, industry, whatever, the think tank environment is not as well developed in Canada as in the United States. So the people going out and doing this research and building these reports and exposing this and then sitting in front of congressional hearings, talking to policymakers, I don't know to what extent there is that level of expertise and investigation going on in other countries. I know that we have it more in the US versus Canada, but I don't know about, like Sweden.
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever this is, we have more of that in US than any other country, regardless. Most okay, so let's do the comments and the super chats, and then we need to go to the next news because there's one of the comments I want to respond to. Because yeah, go on, let's go.
Okay. Oh, we got a super chat from Erkin. Thank you. Saying hello from Izmirnistan. Happy to see this as the first news. Well, I'm glad, you know, I try to come with some good news because a lot of times it just feels like the world is a dark place. Oh, this is cute. So Nike is saying Susanna is cute. Heart, Armin, respect for what you do. Thank you. D is saying our tolerance is killing us. See,
well, I mean,
intolerance is cowardice. That's a quote by Ian Hercieli.
This is, I wanted to highlight this last because I wanted to go through the super chats, but before we get to this one. But now that you highlighted, let me respond to this first. Okay, so this is what D is talking about is what we call the paradox of tolerance, right? Famously explained by Karl Popper, right? And the problem is, how do you solve it? I mean, it is a paradox, but how do you solve it, right? Because if we are tolerant of people, so for society to work, for society to progress, we need liberty and we need some limitations. But the limitations need to be limited. They cannot be based. We cannot limit people expressing their ideas. The limitations are supposed to be protecting the framework where all the competition between these ideas could happen. The limitations should be the rule of law, but a limited rule of law where it just protects the nation state and the safety and security of the people who live within it. And then when it comes to the ideas, then it's up to the citizens to be able to fight that. But to be able to have a limited rule of law where it doesn't force its way on people, force its way on people for the way of life or what it thinks is correct, because the people have to decide what is correct on themselves. It at least has to protect the liberty, right? So we're saying like, oh, don't mess in people's lives, give them liberty, only have limited rule of law where you protect this framework and everything else should be free. Well, what if the people there decide to make the rule of law something that limits liberty? Like, what if people have illiberal values and we like don't meddle with people's lives? Well, what if people are pushing for something that doesn't respect liberty, like whether Islamism or Nazism or communism or anything, any other views that then what do we do? Do we let them give them? Do we tolerate them to the point where they change the system until we are not free at all? But if we want to change the system when they are not free, then now we have violated our own rule, and now we have a government that restricts liberty, and now we basically screwed ourselves, because in fighting that monster that wants to reduce liberty, now we created our own monster that reduces liberty. So the solution, it seems, to this paradox, so either we are fighting a monster or we become the monster that we're fighting, as Nietzsche puts it, the solution seems to be a third element. So we have the state, we have the individual, and we have a relationship between the state and an individual, but there's something here in the middle that is missing, and I think that is the solution, okay? And that is the community, the non-government institutions that are supposed to be the third actor that comes and defends those values, because for all of this to be put together, there needs to be institutions and people that promote and protect the culture and the values, that they are not state actors, but they are as powerful as a collective. So we have the state, we have individuals, and we have collectives in the form of non-governmental institutions, as in the form of this
civil society organizations,
civil society, where they have to come and basically promote the idea of valuing liberty. And that's basically, we are you guys, we're a small part of it. And that is how you win this fight. That is how this battle is won. So this is how you have to create the framework of understanding what is the role of the individual, what is the role of the state, and what is the role of civil society in the form of community and non-governmental institutions.
This person is not understanding, and let me clarify something. Why do we need NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to defend values? You're not making sense. Here's a very simple example. A organization that is dedicated to protecting journalists and the free press and monitoring threats to the free press, or an organization that is dedicated to bringing together lawyers that defend human rights law, or protect lawyers when they are also being threatened for their own efforts to protect civil rights law. I mean, it's stuff like that.
Well, hold on. No.
That's only one example.
Don't remove it. Okay, so but look at the question. Why do we need NGOs to defend values? But here's, you're making no sense. Okay, but you are here. Atheist Republic is a non-governmental organization, and you are here right now, and we are defending values, and you are, like, the fact that you're here and consuming this content is an endorsement of a non-governmental organization defending values. So I don't know how you're saying we're not making sense while you're participating in the very thing that we're advocating for. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, that was it. or legal organizations that are dedicated to preserving free expression and fighting for free expression, like FIRE, making sure that there's academic freedom on campuses. Like, there's so many examples of this. And yeah, I'm not going to go further. Vishnu Prasad gave a super chat, thank you, saying majority Muslim kids will be ex-Muslim in the West. I don't know if the evidence completely bears that out. Studies by XMNA estimates that results are about 25% of kids from Muslim backgrounds born in the West will leave Islam. It was the first study of its kind to examine that kind of question. What's interesting to consider is that I like to follow a lot of British Islamists. And one of the most notorious British Islamists is a man named Dilly Hussein, who works for an organization called 5 Pillars UK. And I remember seeing a tweet from him, which I thought was very revealing. And he was basically saying, some of us in the Muslim community were worried about our children basically not staying true to their background and their allegiance to Islam, essentially. But it was the Palestinian movement which is reigniting their identity and bringing them closer and bringing them back in, which is very interesting coming from a hardcore Islamist that literally sits down with and promotes the Taliban. So I don't think it's quite that simple. Then Yusuf Dumphy gave a super chat.
Wait, hold on. You should give me a chance to respond.
Oh, sorry.
So the numbers that we have right now is 25, like at least in the United States, 25% of second generation Muslim from Muslim community are leaving Islam. So that's a very high rate. Okay. However, we also have people converting to Islam, and I think they cancel each other out, right? So they're equal, but the good thing is that ours is increasing on a much more rapid pace, at least in the United States, not in Europe, right? So the thing is that we have to look at the trend, because 25% leaving Islam used to be closer to 0, right? So right where we are right now is not necessarily where we are going to be 10 years from now. So if we got from close to 0 to 25%, if we could, in the next 10 years, if we get that to, 40%, that would be amazing. And again, remember, if 25% are leaving Islam, that means that there's a much higher percentage that is remaining Muslim, but living less Islamic lives, right? That's also a win. So even if you remain a Muslim, but you're less Islamic, that's also a win for us. 25%, let's say 25% leaving Islam, suggest, maybe 70% or 80% of them living less Islamic lives. So those are the numbers that we have to pay attention to. Anyways, let's continue.
And Anjunier just gave a super chat saying, make citizenship class part of the education system, crying emojis. Armin, go ahead.
Yes. So this is actually a very interesting point. So there's different levels of state involvement, right? So we have, Susanna, are you listening to this? Because I know you have to go, but I want to know if you're hearing this while you're away. Because I want to respond to it well. Okay, good. Okay, go listen to this, because it's very, I want Susanna to hear this, right? Because we have different levels of state involvement, right? We have total state neutrality, and we have total state coercion when it comes to values, right? So let's say, for example, we think, should there be something that the state itself, so we have the nation and we have the state, right? So if you believe in complete state neutrality, you believe the nation, the people themselves should be let loose. They should be free to figure out what's good, to chase the good, define what is good in their life and chase it. And the state should be absolutely neutral. The state should just provide the framework. The state should basically just protect the nation state, the nation, and individuals themselves will go and figure out what is good, and the state itself will have no bias over that, right? And then we have this is the extreme one end, and the extreme other end is no, the state will decide what is good, and it will enforce that good. It would, using coercion, it would implement like that good, right? But there are people in the middle. Some people say it's impossible for the state to be completely neutral, because for the state to be neutral, that would be of its in itself a good that the state has to believe in. So the state cannot be, there's a, for example, let's say liberty. So the state should not meddle in the people's affairs and let them be free. Well, that itself is a value that the state has to believe in for it to do that. So complete state neutrality is impossible. So if we identify certain things that we define as good, and the state wants to not be neutral, coercion might be too much state involvement in what is good. But what about promotion? Or a lower, something below promotion is the state does not promote it, but will have the goal. Like, let's say, for example, the state believes in liberty as a good. It maybe even some people say, like, okay, that's a goal that the state should be after, but without even promoting it. Even the promotion of it should be up to society itself, to civil society itself. So we have 4 levels: complete neutrality, the state defining a good but not promoting it, having that good but just saying, like, okay, I'm going to try to get to this good without even promoting it to the society. And then that's the second level. The third level, the state defines a good and actively promotes it through the education system. So there's more government involvement. And then the fourth version is that the state uses coercion or laws, right? So for example, the state says, like, I believe in diversity, and we're going to force the society to believe, for example, in diversity. That this is our value, and we're going to uphold these values in this nation state, for example. So that would be laws, coercion. So this is what you're advocating for, is the third level of involvement when it comes to the state defining it good and promoting it. Again, I didn't take a slide. I just give you the 4 levels. Anyways, let's go.
Breaking it down.
Breaking it down.
Idris is saying, just liked the stream. Yes, everyone, please remember to like the stream. Pray to the YouTube gods, the only gods that we believe in. And Oscar de la Llanta saying, I'm Israeli and I love this channel. Let me try to improve my Spanish. Oscar de la Llanta. There we go. That was a bit better. Oh, we did that one. GJ is saying, as far as I know, thank you for the super chat, GJ. As far as I know, the balanced line and laws limiting freedom, speech, and expression, the balanced line must be drawn such that intolerance can never be tolerated.
Yeah, but that means defining, like,
yeah,
intolerated as in to what extent? Like, can somebody express their views that they want intolerance? Like, are we going to make that speech illegal? So, for example, if that's, again, that is not specified to what extent we want, how we want to stop it, to what extent do we want to stop it? Because with that mindset, if you want to go all in, then much speech will be illegal. A lot of speech, including all religions could get banned based on that standard. And again, who's to say which opinions are going to lead to tolerance? Like, racism will be banned, and speech that many people will perceive as racist, that maybe is not racist, could be banned. Or maybe speech that is not even racist but could lead to racism could be banned.
Yeah.
So again, if we want to ban intolerance, then you just open the hand of the government to just decide. We just created a truth ministry. Again, that's why I think the third element needs to be introduced to the system. We have the individual, we have the state, and we have communities. And this is why we have a whole branch of political theorists called communitarians, because they believe in the power of this third entity. But again, that's. By the way, guys, do you like it? you want me to go into this level of detail, or is that boring? Like, let me know in the live chat when we get philosophical here, or tell me. Yes.
You can tell Armin's been studying up on his political theory. Cajun American is saying, at what point does a community become a state, i.e. a homeowners association versus county officials? Are they unelected experts? This reminds me of the anti-Catholics of the 1970s. I swear to God, I am going to be, when it's time for me to purchase a home, I'm going to be organizing my life so that I do not have to have an HOA. It seems like the pit of hell. At what point does a community become a state? Well,
wait,
a state or its own.
The enforcement.
What's the word I'm looking? Like domicile. That's not exactly the word I'm looking for. Like at a certain point, a certain community can decide that they want to become their own city. A state is something else.
The community is not the state. The community can have a state. That's why we call it a nation state. We have a nation as a state, okay? So the community can have a state, and the state part of the community is the part that is doing the enforcement. Doing is basically the legislation and the enforcement of that. I mean, take the enforcement, because the legislation is also part of the enforcement, or without the enforcement of legislation, the legislation doesn't mean anything else. So within the society, the part that is doing the enforcement is called the state, and the part that is not doing the enforcement is called civil society.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the super chats. Oh, Levantex is asking.
For example, let's say we're 10 people, right? And we're fighting, and we're working together, and we're cooperating, and we're trading with each other. And some of us sometimes cheat, and we think like, okay, this is like, or we don't like this, so we hire 2 of our 10 to just make sure that everybody is being fair. Those 2 people are basically the state now. The 2 people that are basically, let's say like the 2 of us are among the 10 of us, 2 of us have more muscle and we're stronger. And like, you know what? You guys are stronger. You can stop fishing and stop picking fruits and stop like making clothes for everybody. We just give you very big sticks, and you just watch the rest of the 8 of us, and just make sure that we're all playing. We're just being fair. That's the state. Those 2 people are now the state.
Oh, this is so sweet, young atheist. By the way, I missed you, young atheist. I hope you're doing okay. Saying always learn something new from Armin. Thanks for these amazing streams. That's so sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this next comment I thought was funny, and it's a good segue into our next story we're covering. Saying, Armin, I've been waiting to hear your opinion about the political situation in Iran. Is there a reason you do not talk about it? I mentioned in relation to the threats of attack and the news of inner unrest. Okay, Cat Lady. Respectfully, I don't know where you've been, because we talk about this constantly.
Yeah, we do.
Like a lot, like more than anyone I know. We also have an entire channel, Atheist Republic, in Persian, to a Persian-speaking audience, mostly inside of Iran. That channel is called Jumhuri Bi Khodayan in Persian. Go check it out if you guys speak Persian. But that's also a very good segue into our next story, which is in Iran. So if you want to hear Armin's opinions on the political unrest, well, you're about to get it. So
yes, the next is about Iran.
Yes.
Yes.
So I don't know if we want to clap because someone got really severely hurt, but.
Oh, we're not clapping. Yes. Okay. So yeah, the Cat Lady, we have the next stream is about Iran, and it's not good news. So no clapping for this one. Should I bring it up now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next news.
Next news, Iran's mandatory hijab law claims another victim. In a shocking series of incidents that have reignited debate over Iran's strict hijab laws, two cases have come to the forefront of international attention. First, 31-year-old Arzu Badri was left paralyzed after being shot by Iranian police on July 22nd in the city of Nur for an attempted violation, an alleged violation of the mandatory hijab rule. Badri, driving with her sister in a car with tinted windows and a prior confiscation order, which I will explain in a second, failed to comply with police demands to stop. According to an unnamed source, quote, the police opened fire on the car, shooting first at the tires, saying the bullet entered her lungs and severely damaged her spinal cord, leaving Badri paralyzed from the waist down with an uncertain prognosis. She is now under tight security within a police-owned hospital in Tehran, with her family allowed only brief, monitored visits. In a separate case, a 14-year-old girl was violently assaulted by hijab officers in Tehran, with CCTV footage of the incident sparking widespread outrage. The girl's mother reported finding her daughter at a morality police station with a, quote, bruised face, swollen lips, a bruised neck, and torn clothes. These harrowing events coincide with the Iranian government's introduction of the new Tuba plan, an initiative to train over 1,500 quote-unquote missionaries to promote hijab compliance, particularly within schools and education centers. These cases have become stark symbols of escalating conflict between Iranian women defying the mandatory hijab law and the regime's increasingly aggressive enforcement tactics, raising concerns about human rights and personal freedoms within the Islamic Republic. So, Armin, these are two huge cases that happened recently. We are only now, this week, hearing news about what happened to Arzu Badri, because the government tried to suppress what happened to her for a very long time. And so news is just breaking now. And they're suppressing this news because they know what happened last time this kind of thing happened. It shook the regime. And so let me give a little bit of background on the story of Arzu. Arzu is a mother. She's 31 years old. And there's not a lot of details about the case. But we do know is that she was apparently in the middle of a traffic stop. And we do know that there are prior confiscation orders on her car. Now, what does that mean and what could that maybe tell us? For those who do not know, one of the tactics that the Islamic Republic is using to force women to wear hijab is that if you are caught not wearing hijab, particularly if you are caught not wearing your hijab while you're driving or inside a vehicle, the police will basically put like impounding orders on your vehicle. So if you or someone in your car is not wearing mandatory hijab, they will start putting orders and fines on your car to take your vehicle from you. And this is a way to try to punish people and get them to wear hijab. So apparently she had prior confiscation orders on her vehicle. So this leads people to believe that she probably had other actions that were being taken against her for hijab non-compliance. And there was some sort of traffic stop that was supposed to happen, or that they were attempting. And Arzu tried to drive away, and the police opened fire on the vehicle, and they shot out the tires, and then they shot inside the vehicle. She was hit and injured. I believe the bullet went through her lung and hit her spinal cord. She was transferred to various hospitals. The bullet remained inside of her for at least like 11 days. And now she's within a hospital in Tehran. And they are heavily monitoring her. And they confiscate all phones off of people that try to go visit her. The authorities are intimidating her family into not speaking about this. And somehow, despite all these efforts, the images of what happened to Arzu managed to get out and be released. And that's how the public is just now beginning to hear about this story. And the images of Arezou in her hospital bed, where it remains uncertain, but she might remain paralyzed for the rest of her life, bring up images to the mind of the Iranian populace of Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old Kurdish woman who was murdered in custody, beaten to death for hijab non-compliance or insufficient hijab. She was wearing hijab, just not enough. They beat her to death over it. And the images of her on life support look almost identical to the images of Arezou in her hospital bed. So this brings up like very strong imagery to the public. So this has been causing outrage. And then there's also a very, very important case that I want Armin to talk about as well. This incredibly violent assault that happened against a 14-year-old that was causing huge amounts of outrage shortly before the news about Arezou broke. So Armin, I want you to tell us like what you've been hearing, why these things are so huge, and any other details that you think I'm missing because it's not in English media.
Yeah, so let's go through this video of this 14-year-old, which by the way, the pictures after you'll see. So you'll see in this video what happened. So there are two girls. They see a van coming, and they know that this is the morality police, and they're not wearing the hijab, so they try to hide, but they don't know that they have been spotted already from miles away. And they come out of the van, and they arrest them in the most aggressive way. And even after in the van, they beat her, that 14-year-old up, and the pictures afterward of what they did to her is so. I mean, the description of what happened to her is insane. Like but look at the way that they put her in the van. So watch this. So I'm not gonna pause it, but just watch while the van is coming. They notice the van. They try to hide. I'm not gonna say anything. Just I'm gonna play all the way through.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's what they're treating her like I don't know, they got a terrorist or something. Like this is all because she doesn't have a job. Like I don't. Anyways, by the way, they keep denying all of this stuff. They got these girls got lucky that this was recorded, because every time something like this happens, they come and say this was fake news. This was so brutal. And they cannot deny it because it was all caught on camera. Every time stuff like this happens, they deny it. This one they couldn't deny. And look how she jumped out. Like it's like Batman coming out of the van. Look how the speed in which she came out. Look, as if she caught like a terrorist. Look at this. Look at this. Look how the speed. Isn't it like look?
Oh my God, it's so scary.
Isn't that like Batman speed? Like honestly, like how did she do that? She looks like she's defying the laws of gravity. Like she's like, it's like a Dementor or something. Look at that. look at how she she's like hovering. She's like a Chadori ninja or something. What the fuck?
It's just like
that?
A swoosh of
Shh.
black
Like
robe and then your head getting smashed into a power box. Those are 14-year-old girls that they're slamming their skulls into that metal power box. And the outrage from this incident was so large that even the government came out and was like, yeah, no, this was too much.
Yeah, but this is making even the religious people turn anti-government. This is the videos like this, right? So I'm noticing I follow a lot of religious content, Iranian content, right? And they're like, a lot of them are like, okay, maybe we are the baddies. I'm serious. Like, some of them are like, okay, like maybe we shouldn't have religion in government. Maybe we're like, well, this is actually too much. So this is the effect that this is having, is that the government is losing its people more and more. And also, I don't understand why. So there were somebody here saying, D highlighted this fake news. Somebody saying this is fake news. What do you mean this is not fake news? This has been confirmed. Like, this is why during this show I showed the BBC article. Like, there's so many other articles. This has been confirmed that this is happening. So I don't know why people just come and say, "Oh, this is fake news. We Iranians do not buy your BS." You Iranians, the vast majority of Iranian people are highlighting the story as a tragedy. Who is this person that's talking on behalf of Iranian people? What the hell is this?
I don't understand. That person commenting against the activist that posted that, Chelsea Hart, right? Because I'm not going to get into the drama with her. I think it might be against that particular person, to be honest. Here's a quote that I thought was interesting from Iran International. Iranian police have been blamed a teenage girl for defying officers in a viral video. Though they admitted their actions fell short of standards, the social media to the backlash was so intense that the Tehran military prosecutor also responded, saying that the video was meant solely for judicial purposes and should not have been released to the public. So there is. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. So and also the head of the police came out and defended. He said, "Okay, this is what he said." The head of Rada, the guy responsible for enforcing the hijab laws in Iran, right? He said, "Okay, maybe they went a bit too far. Okay, a bit too far. Okay, but you also have to know how insulting these women are to our enforcement officers. The words that they use, the insulting language that they use." And he was basically trying to say, like, if you were doing these hijabi women's job, you would, at some point, you would also break, given how insulting these 14. So they're saying that it was, maybe we went too far in hitting this 14-year-old girl, but you also have to understand that our poor officers are dealing in a very tough conditions. So that was his language. That was the guy's language, right? And also, this woman who's been paralyzed, the government's main priority is to not, because they are terrified of another mass revolution is happening. So, by the way, every time they come and say, like, okay, we went too far, nothing happens to these officers, right? So the officers, they beat the crap out of these girls, and one of them now is paralyzed, and they're like, okay, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we shouldn't have shot at the car just because they weren't like stopping right away. But then I'm like, okay, is anyone going to get punished? And no, nothing. Nothing happens to anybody ever, even if they admit that maybe this was too far. So the enforcement officers, they know that even if they come and for appearance sake, they come and apologize, they feel like, okay, well, they never punish us, so we're fine. Sometimes they come and tell them, like, can you guys like cool it down a little bit? Like, can you guys not be as aggressive? And they're like, okay, sorry. But then why would they? Because if they get punished, if they never get punished for it. And the government's priority with this other girl who just got paralyzed is to make sure no videos come out of her hospital visits. Like, some of them got out, but they are punishing people. The family is under strict observation. They don't let them take any phones with them. They limit the time that they could see her, even though she's in the freaking hospital, maybe paralyzed. And the mother and father cannot go see her. And even when they do, They make sure that they carry no phones with them because they don't want people to get angry and maybe another round of protest happening. They are telling this is insane. They're telling the parents to go on media and say that this was not about hijab. And also, and this was about them just not listening to the cops while the cops told them to stop the car or something like that, right? But the fact that they want the parents, they're under so much pressure. Every time this happens to a girl, they come after the family, and they want the family to say a certain narrative. They come on TV and say the exact narrative that they want, right? But the fact that the government is telling the family to come and the family is for now hasn't yet succumbed to their pressure yet, but sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes eventually they do because they threaten them, but like they know how to psychologically pressure them, right? But the fact that they want the family to come and say that this was not about hijab shows how much this hijab issue is a threat to the government. Like it shows that the people's power, like the government is actually afraid of the people, because the people, if this is about the hijab and people think a girl was paralyzed over the hijab, it could spark another mass riots in the streets. And the fact that the government is terrified shows that every year that we go by, the people's threat to the government is becoming more and more and more. The fact that they have to be so controlling of the narratives out there in the media. Yeah. By the way, imagine not being able to walk ever again because, I mean, by the way, they say like, oh, you should have stopped. I mean, you are fucking terrifying. You have no idea how I would react. They are like, if you're driving and you don't have the hijab and you see a whole bunch of armed pointing at your car, I mean, in that point, if you drive the other way, if this was another country, right? If this was in the United States, where we know that if you just comply, like do what the police says, then you could go complain about it at another time, and the complaint will be taken seriously, and the police is much less likely to mistreat you. Then I would be like, okay, yeah, it wasn't justified for you to resist arrest, right? But if you live in Iran, and you know that your safety is not actually guaranteed if you cooperate with the cops, and you could still get beaten up in a van, and you have no idea if they're going to RAPE you, because there are a lot of people who get RAPE once they get arrested, and you're terrified because these people are monsters. Then if you say like, oh, we shot at them because they were not stopping when we're telling them to stop, then I don't know. I cannot say I sympathize with them. I don't know what I would do in that situation myself. I might panic and just not stop because I don't know what the hell you're going to do to me, right? So there's also that.
Yeah, it's oh my god. So have you been hearing anything about like anything in particular in Persian media? Like I want that insight that we don't get.
Oh my no, this gone viral on Persian media. This has gone insane. People are so angry. One of the narratives is that the Pezeshkian era is not going to change any of this. Right?
Pezeshkian is the new president, for those that don't know.
Yes. So a lot of people are like, oh, Armin, what do you think? We have a reformist president now. Are things going to get better? No. First of all, even if Pezeshkian was a reformist, if anything gets ever better, is because the people of Iran are becoming more threatening towards the government. Nothing else no reformist is going to be able to change the situation. It's people's power against the regime, including the reformers. That's the only thing that could improve the situation, if the people are a threat to the regime, right? And Pezeshkian is not a reformist. He's actually the most in line with Khamenei than any hardliner ever was, right? So he's he's the best puppet Khamenei ever had. No president, including Raisi, has ever been this in line with what Khamenei wants ever. So it's amazing how people are calling him a reformist, right? But also, even if you,
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, because I'm
just gonna say, being a Khamenei's puppet is a little bit of it's a dangerous occupation, because it might result in a helicopter hitting a mountain. Oh my god!
No. So Raisi, so here's why Pezeshkian is better than Raisi for Khamenei, okay? Because Pezeshkian has a label reformist, but loyal to Khamenei, right? So Raisi was too loyal in both appearance and in reality to Khamenei. So everything that went wrong would have been in Khamenei. So if Khamenei killed Raisi, which now I think he did, it's likely, right? Is because he was too much on Khamenei's camp. So everything that happens is also Khamenei's fault, right? Everything that happens with the economy, any form of backtracking or retreating or submission to the people or to the United States by the regime will be seen as Khamenei's weakness, right? Because Raisi is basically a loyal, is a hardliner at Khamenei, and it was his pick as the president, right? Pezeshkian is perfect because he is able to take all the blame and protect Khamenei and do what he wants at the same time. He's the perfect president for Khamenei. Like, he will basically, with the label of reformist, he will give all the blame of any form of retreat that Khamenei will do. All the anger of the regime loyalists will go for the reformists, and Khamenei will be safe from that, even though he's basically telling Pezeshkian to retreat, but he will have plausible deniability. That was his policy. So he's perfect. He's just the perfect. And because Khamenei is fearing the people in the United States right now, they had to eliminate Raisi and bring him so that they could blame everything on maybe him, right? But at the same time, even if this man was a reformist, which he isn't. He's, like, the way I could tell you, one indication that he's not a reformist is, like, the president is supposed to pick his cabinet, his ministers, but historically it's understood that at least half of the ministers are picked by Khamenei, right? So imagine that, right? Khamenei has so much influence in the government that he comes and tells the president which ministers to pick. But Pezeshkian came and announced that no, that's not good. I want Khamenei to pick all my ministers, all of them, right? So Ahmadinejad, who was a hardliner, his war with Khamenei, Ahmadinejad's and Khamenei's war started over the fact that Khamenei was not letting him pick the intelligent minister that he wanted. And that's when Ahmadinejad and Khamenei started fighting against each other. And ever since, they become enemies, right? So the pick over the ministers is a historical fight, usually between the ministers and the supreme leader, which shows how loyal you are to the supreme leader. But this guy, Pezeshkian, has done something that no hardliner president has ever done. Like, more extreme than other hardliners. Like, every single one of my ministers has been picked with me based on what Khamenei has told me. Every single one of them. And this guy is supposed to be the reformist.
Yeah. Good little golden boy.
Yeah. Yes. But even if he wanted to be a reformist, he couldn't be. Because what does he want to reform? Right? Does he want to reform the way that they treat women in the streets? Because that's part of the Niruya Intizamiya and Sepah, which the presidency, the office of presidency has no control over, right? Does he want to change the relationship with the United States? That is done not by the foreign ministry. That is chosen by Shoraya Aliye Umur Kharijeh, which is under the control of the supreme leader, right? Every single important thing that in Iran is chosen based on an institution that is not under the control of the presidency, but it's under an institution that is directly under the control of Ali Khamenei. So how is he going to reform anything? Is he going to change the way internet is filtered? That is not chosen by the Ministry of Communication. That is chosen by the Shoraya Aliye Fazai Majuzi, I think that's what it's called, which is, again, that's under the direct control of the supreme leader. So none of these decisions are decided. Oh, what about whether they're going to attack Israel or not? Right? That is decided by the IRGC, which is the most powerful entity in Iran. That has nothing to do with the defense ministry or the foreign ministry. It's the IRGC, which is completely independent and more powerful than the presidency or his cabinet. That's the institution that decides whether they are going to be anti-Israeli or they're going to fund the terrorists around the Middle East against Israel or not. So the presidency has no control over any of that. So even if you were a real reformist that wanted to change these things, you can't. The only thing you do is you give false hope to the people to keep the Islamic Republic alive. That's the point of the reformists in Iran. And that's why when people are chanting in the streets in Iran, they say, Usulgara, Islah Talab, Dige Tamum Majara, which means hardliners, reformers, your time is up. All of you, your time is up. That's one of the most famous chants that people have in the streets when they're rioting against the regime.
Or my favorite, it means death to the whole system.
The whole system, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. That's from. I've been listening to a lot of Persian rap lately. I recently discovered anti-Hamas Persian rap because I've been listening to Persian rap for years now. But the anti-Hamas Persian rap I was showing Armin, so good, so good.
Yeah, very aggressive. I like it.
We were listening to it before the show. Actually, I was like getting all hyped in here.
Yeah, actually, you showed me some Persian rap that I was like, oh my God, what the hell is it? I haven't heard these. I'm like, these are so intense. I'm like, oh my God,
dude,
what the hell are you?
Like I'm gonna put some crosshairs on your forehead intense. Like,
oh, somebody's saying name drop it, please. Yeah, can you mention who you're listening to? They're very violent, so they're very aggressive.
Extremely. One of them is
anti-regime.
Yeah, anti-regime. I really like this Persian rapper. His name is Shapur. The producer he works with is Maidar, and I'm also a huge fan of Bahram. Bahram is less explicitly anti-regime. He's more of like an outsider thinker. But I'm a huge Bahram fan. But Shapur has some of the best anti-regime music for sure.
Yeah, I was listening to it. I was like, oh my God. Jesus. Oh my God. This guy is intense. By the way, I forgot to show this. This is also Iran's Human Rights Watch, which is talking about Arzu Badri. Her spinal cord has been, again, I'm not sure if she's paralyzed or not, but it seems like a lot of people are saying she's paralyzed. I mean, her spinal cord, the bullet hit her spinal cord. We know that much. They're trying to see if they could fix it. But again, I don't know how far medicine has come for us. Mm-hmm. We'll see. So, by the way, this is the Human Rights Watch reporting of that.
This is also another Persian rapper I really like, Fadai. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that. His song, Tashkir, is my favorite because it's about Majid Reza Rahnavard.
Wow.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Majid Reza Rahnavard was a protester that was executed in public for his participation in the uprising after the killing of Mahsa Amini, and Majid Reza was almost very likely to be an atheist, and in some of his last words in a forced confession, he became famous for saying, "Don't read the Quran at my funeral. Celebrate instead."
Yeah. Don't play the Quran during my funeral. Play happy song and celebrate. That's what he said. And the government did the mistake of showing that, thinking that it will make him look evil. Somebody saying, "Don't play the Quran." They were like, "Oh, say that again," and they recorded it because they wanted to show how bad this guy is. But they didn't know that actually that turned him into a hero. Yes, that's him. Yeah, and by the way, a lot of Iranian communists who are anti-regime don't like mentioning him because he has the Shiro Khorshid tattoo right? So because he was a pro-monarchist, I think, and because he has that tattoo, a lot of they mention some the anti-regime Iranian communists. They mention some other people. They have their own favorites, but they don't. Anytime somebody has a tattoo of the Shira Khorshid, I mean, the tattoo of the Shira Khorshid doesn't necessarily mean you're a monarchist. You might just
not at all.
Yeah. But because he has that,
slander from the communists, because they can't deal with the fact that of the Shahs, Shira Rashid, the lion and sun, is an ancient Iranian astrological symbol that then was adopted to be associated to Ali or associated to the monarchy. But it predates all of that. This is an ancient Iranian symbol. So it's just
they don't like the nationalists. They don't like nationalists in general, right? So they try to pick the heroes who don't have many signs to show that they're nationalist tendencies. But Majid Reza was such a patriot, and he had the Shira Khorshid tattoo to prove that he's a patriot, and that's why he doesn't get as highlighted by those people as much as he should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dude, I cried over Majid Reza so much. Oh my God, his whole story. Anyways, let's go talk about the next story, because this next one is very, very, very important and shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify, Uncle's asking, what is Shir al-Khorshid? Shir al-Khorshid is lion and sun. It's a lion and sun symbol of Iran.
So the flag of Iran right now has an Allah symbol on it, and that is not the Iranian. So that's the Iranian flag after the Islamic Revolution. Hold on, let me actually. And a lot of people do not celebrate that flag. They celebrate this flag. This is the flag that they celebrate. The flag that before the Iranian regime became Islamic, this was the pre-revolution flag of Iran, right? This one here, right? This one right here, right? Which is a lion holding a sword with the sun. Shir or Khorshid. Shir means lion. Khorshid means sun. So it basically means lion and sun. And he had the Majid Reza Rahnavad. He had a tattoo of this on his arm, and they broke his arm. They broke his arm because it had his, like, when they arrested him, they broke his arm, and because they had this tattoo on his arm. So if you have this, a lot of people say that, oh, this means because Iran was a monarchy before the Islamic Revolution. A lot of people say, oh, you're a monarchist if you defend the symbol. But no, there are a lot of people in Iran who are Republicans. And they still have this flag because, like, no, this is just a flag of, this is the official, this should be the flag of Iran, whether you're a monarchist or not a monarchist, right? And for a lot of people, this is
found in iconography from the region since, like, the pre-Achaemenid Empire.
Yes. So, you can see a lot of people who raise the flag, the Shir al-Khorshid flag, they raise it next to the Israeli flag too. Because it's funny because I'm searching for the lion and sun flag of Iran, and it's showing the Israeli flag here, showing how often these days they're being flown next to each other, right?
Zionist agenda confirmed.
But a lot of, if you have that flag, it shows that it's mostly a symbol of patriotism, and that's why some Iranian communists, they don't like that, even though they're anti-regime themselves.
Because they are pinko bastards. No, sorry.
We have super chats before we go to the next.
I'm sorry, I don't like communists. GJ gave super chat. Oh yeah. Yeah, we can never miss an opportunity. We can never miss an opportunity.
You see, it broke. I put it together.
Yeah. GJ gave a super chat saying, my view that books like the Quran should be wrapped in mandatory warning the content incites discrimination, hatred, wife beating, and other violence, honor killing, terrorism, an all-out holy war. Well, I don't think that's gonna happen. GJ also gave a super chat saying Will Smith should make a Woman in Black movie. Shit is crazy. Dude, the way she darts out of that van. Yeah. It is straight up like a Dementor in Harry Potter. It's like, are your feet even touching the ground? And Angie is saying woman life freedom, like and share so more people will know. Yes, that is a great reminder, everyone, to make sure to give your penance and your alms to the YouTube gods. And you can do that for free, absolutely free. You don't have to give 10% of your income. You don't have to tithe. It's completely free. Just hit that like button, subscribe, share it with other people, tell your friends, leave a comment after the stream.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me put something in the live chat. You read that, but I'm gonna put something in the live chat and I'm gonna highlight it.
Okay. And Kenny just gifted 5 Atheist Republic memberships. Thank you so much for giving memberships to people, Kenny. Great way to support the channel is to become a member.
Thank you.
If you just became a member because of Kenny's gift, make sure to use your new emojis in the live chat. And Carl gave a super chat saying, Armin, who supports the Iranian regime? Who's in Pastaran, etc.? As I understand, the lower classes, correct?
Armin, who supports Iran? Who's in Pastaran? Yeah, Pastaran is the street that the government. So offices, not the government offices are mostly in, right? So that's the street. As I understand it, the lower class is correct. Well, it used to be like that. During Ahmadinejad's time, the upper class had higher percentage of people that were against the regime, and the lower class had the higher percentage of people who were pro-regime. It's not like that anymore. Because of the internet, because of the access to information. Those people there, usually the government will come and promise them subsidies for votes and for their support, and because they were poor, they will be convinced and they will support the government. But and also because they had less access to information and all the anti-government information that was out there. But now, because they have the internet, and also because their lives have become even more poor, like those subsidies or those favors by the government is so insignificant compared to how much their lives have been. So if they have lost 100, the government coming and promising them 2 for their support is not going to cut it, because they see that like their lives have been ruined, right? So now among the even among the lower classes, the anti-regime people are the majority, both upper class and lower class, right? So the regime has a very low level of support, under 8% now, and these are basically the people that are directly there's 2 groups. These are either people who are very, very ideological, and they're just supporting the government for ideological reasons. But mostly there are people who are completely their benefits, their resources, their power, their wealth is directly tied to the government. So these are the 2 types of people who have been left, right? Either the extremely ideological ones, or the ones who have direct interest in supporting the regime because their power and their wealth is tied into it, right? And if this is why a lot of Iranian people support the sanctions on gas and oil, because they think that second group that I just mentioned is even more, because the ones who are extremely ideological, some of them are also turning anti-regime because for the regime is not being ideological enough. So the main support that the government has is the people who the government can buy, and the Iranian people think that if the government cannot afford to buy them, the government will fall, and that's why a lot of Iranian people support the sanctions on gas and oil.
Yeah, it's so funny because that's not the narrative you would hear from many progressive activists. Because I understand it's like, oh, normal people are suffering under sanctions, but meanwhile, most Iranians I know inside or outside Iran are like, sanctions? We want more sanctions. Because it also validates that someone is actually seeing that they're going through human rights abuses. Like, it's actually being recognized. Some action is being taken against it. when people, I'm not going to go on a rant, but go ahead.
So let me be clear. The sanctions right now are the worst possible way they're being implemented, right? So the sanctions right now, you have the sanctions on oil and gas on the books, right? And you also have sanctions against everything else. And we have the worst combination right now, because the sanctions against oil and gas, the one that I think we want, is actually not being enforced. And the Islamic Republic is been able to sell record oil to China through Malaysia, going around the sanctions, and the United States knows that, and the Biden administration knows that, and it allows it to happen, which is directly funding the Islamic Republic of Iran, and which directly funded the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel and many other terrorist activities. And the U.S. government knows this and allows this. I mean, the reason why they allow it is because they didn't want the price of oil to go so much for them to have so much inflation, right? But that's the reason why they allow it. But the Iranian regime is being funded because the U.S. government is looking the other way against the very sanctions that they have put in place. And then there's another group of sanctions that make no sense, and that's other businesses where people in Iran could, for example, come and sell their services online to foreigners, right? So, for example, if I right now want to hire an Iranian video editor inside Iran, that would be illegal because Iran is sanctioned and I cannot hire them. I cannot hire somebody in Iran. And I think this is insanity. I think the sanctions should be removed from such jobs so that the Iranian people themselves, the best way to support the Iranian people is to reduce the power of the regime and increase the power of the people. And that power includes economic power. So the way to reduce the economic power of the regime is to actually enforce the sanctions on oil and gas, but we want the economic power of the individuals, because the oil and gas, that goes directly, we don't have like private companies that are selling the oil and gas. It doesn't go to the private sector. The oil and gas goes to the government, which then they invest in supporting terrorism in the region. But we want the economic power of the people, of individual people, to increase. And we can do that through the internet. And that is criminal right now. I think it needs to be decriminalized for the world to be able to hire Iranians from inside. I mean, even because they're not part of the FATF, you're not going to be able to send anything to their bank account. But again, there's also cryptocurrencies that people could use. All the U.S. government needs to do is to decriminalize that, and people will find a way. We want to be able to hire private individuals. There are a lot of good talent in Iran. We need to enrich them with economic activity and reduce the economic activity of the government, so that the balance of power between the Iranian people and the government increases in favor of the people. Sorry, I'm going too long.
Yeah. So you put this in the live chat, Armin.
Oh no, it's not showing there because in the live chat it shows like an Iranian flag. I just wanted to mention that this is why a lot of Iranian people don't use the Iranian flag emoji. And when somebody was like, "Oh, I love Iran," and they use like Iranian flag emoji, then people are like, "Yeah, don't use that. We don't like that flag." Instead of that, they put a symbol of a lion and a sun, because there's no emoji with the flag that they like. And there's actually a petition to the emoji, officials, to please give us our own emoji. We don't like to use the emoji that represents the Iranian flag right now. And a lot of Iranian people, when they want to represent their country, they just put lions and suns in when you see lions and suns, it's because we don't have an emoji that we like. Yeah.
Darko also gifted 5 Atheist Republic memberships. Thank you, Darko. Garkad Defense Systems gives super chat saying, a bit off topic, but should people abroad buy products from Iran? Is there a chance that this will support the regime through taxes or otherwise?
Yeah, I think you should buy products because it's the products. I don't think you should be this picky about what you buy, but again, this supports private business, you know. I mean, even if it's a relative influence, okay? You can never do anything that doesn't do any harm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything you do does do some harm. You have to just see, does it do more good than harm, right? So every economic activity in Iran obviously will support financially in some way the IRGC. But what we want to do, we want to reduce the economic activities or eliminate the economic activities that supports the IRGC more than the people, and increase the activities that supports the people more than the IRGC, because we're talking about the relative economic power, not the absolute economic power, right? We want the relative economic power of the people relative to government to increase. And I think if you buy products from Iran, you're basically supporting the private industry more than the government side. So I would say yes.
I love to support my local Persian market, friends with the owner. Sometimes one time I got a discount because I saw I had a Masa Amini tote bag. It was very sweet. And at my local Persian market, they put up flyers for events against the Iranian, the Islamic Republic, right? It's like it oftentimes like local markets are a way where people come together as a community and learn about events to support the community, right? So I'm a huge fan of supporting my local Persian market. What's my favorite thing to get there? I get a lot of tea. I get a lot of the bagali polo. Oh my god. That's like I'm addicted. And Rick gave a super chat saying, how do Iranians view Israel and or the US militarily taking out the Iranian military and political system? Ooh, Armin is the perfect person to answer this.
Well, I mean, I have done full streams on this. You could go watch them. How again, there is no stats for this, but Iranian people are becoming more and more. Again, this is not absolute. When you say how do Iranians view Israel, we cannot speak in absolutes. Like, we cannot generalize all Iranian people. We could talk about the trend. The trend is more and more Iranians are becoming more pro-Israel, and more than pro-Israeli. Iranian people are actually more anti-Palestinian than pro-Israel. Like, so we are seeing more pro-Israeli tendencies. There's not a single pro-Iranian protest that you could go to outside of Iranian's borders without seeing an Israeli flag there. You always are going to find Iranian people waving the Israeli flags in the protests that they go to as well. So most Iranian people are anti-regime, and among anti-regime Iranians, pro-Israeli views they were always somewhat there, because you could see even before the Mahsa revolution and before October 7th, most Iranian people refused to walk on Israeli flags. Painted in universities, meant to be walked on. I did a stream on that. You could go watch it. So there was always a somewhat of a respect. Like, the celebration was not there, but the respect was there. But now that respect has escalated to actual celebration of everything that is Israeli, to the point that they are one of the most extreme pro-Israelis in the Middle East comes out of Iran, right? And again, I'm not saying everybody is like that, but that view is rapidly increasing. So, and I would say that if the celebration is not the majority, the respect is, I would assume, is the majority. Or not having any animosity is at least that for sure, I think, is the majority. But I'm much safer to say that the anti-Palestinian sentiment is definitely the majority. And I don't know if I want to celebrate that, because here at least we say that we're pro-Palestine. That's why we support Palestinian. That's why we support Israel, because Israel is the best thing for Palestine by removing Hamas. But you could see, like in Iran, for example, an entire stadium, when the officials there wanted to say something about Palestine and support Palestine, the entire stadium was chanting, "Shove the Palestinian flag in your ass." Like, you could see that's one of the most famous chants Iranian people have every time there is something mentioned about Pachame Palestino Bokon Tukune. So that's what they chant. That's a famous chant in Iran. This is like, so when it comes to Israeli flag, waving the Israeli flag, that happens out by Iranians outside of Iran. But when it comes to the chant that "shove the Palestinian flag in your ass," that is a famous chant inside Iran by entire stadiums of people. So that is insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's because the Iranian people know that all of the money that is being released to the regime is just going towards funding their terrorism abroad, including Hamas, and that any money or sanctions that are lifted is not going to go towards benefiting their own life. It's going to go towards furthering terrorism. And so, speaking of the anti-Hamas Persian rap I was listening to, one of the songs is called Alaki, which basically means fake. And the whole song is about how all of their ideology, everything they say, it's all fake, it's all fake, it's all fake. Yeah. And it's also catchy. Anyways. Let's go to yes, let's go to the next news. This is shocking. Okay. Oh my God, there's so much to unpack here. We're gonna clap because we're gonna really dive deep. Okay, next news. Iraq pushes to legalize child marriage as young as 9 years old. In a controversial move, Iraq's parliament is considering amendments to its personal status law that could dramatically alter family and marriage regulations, sparking widespread concern and protest. The proposed changes, pushed by the quote-unquote coordination framework, a coalition of conservative and Islamist parties. This is important. It would shift power from civil courts to religious authorities in matters of marriage, divorce, and child custody law. Most alarmingly, its critics argue that the amendments could potentially legalize child marriage for children as young as 9 years old. Raya Faik, a coordinator for a coalition opposing the bill, starkly warned this law legalizes child RAPE. The draft bill, it's still a draft bill, which passed its first reading on August 4th, would require Muslim couples to choose either Sunni or Shia doctrine for their marriage, with the husband's sect taking precedence in disputes. Despite fierce opposition from human rights organizations, activists, and some political parties, proponents of the bill insist that it is constitutional and, quote, does not contradict the constants of Sharia and the foundations of democracy. This contentious proposal has ignited a heated debate about women's rights, religious authority, and the future of Iraq's diverse society. So there's a lot there. I want to break down a lot of stuff first, so people understand the nature of what's being proposed. So this is basically a proposal that moves a lot of the seat of power when it comes to quote unquote personal matters. So this is like marriage, inheritance, divorce, child custody, from the civil government and into the hands of religious authorities. So this is really bolstering the authority of clerics and validating and legitimizing Sharia within the actual proceedings of this state. And how this would work is somewhat similar to how personal law is in India, where Hindus follow Hindu law, Muslims follow Muslim personal law, Christians follow Christian personal law, Zoroastrians have Parsi personal law. You know, it's somewhat similar to that, in which the amended law would allow men to decide upon marriage whether they follow Sunni or Shiite family law, and it would give clerics the legal authority over this. So let's give some examples. This is from the Jerusalem Post. The draft amendment would change inheritance laws in Iraq by mandating that inheritance operate by sect. Under the current law, which is based on Sunni inheritance customs, a woman whose husband dies inherits his estate. The amended law would allow women in Sunni marriages to inherit from their husbands, but would ban women in Shiite marriages from doing so in accordance with Shiite custom. Custody law is also differentiated by sect under the amendment. Sunni custody customs, which currently applies to all Iraqis, mandate that a divorced woman maintain custody over her children until they reach puberty, at which point the children can decide which parent to live with. Under Shiite law, the children's father automatically receives custody until he chooses otherwise. A woman seeking divorce from a Shiite man under the amended law would be forced to pay a sum of money to her husband to end the marriage. In current Iraqi family law, based on Sunni custom, a woman can request a separation and be granted a divorce by a judge if she provides adequate justification. One of the most controversial effects of the amended law would be the legalization of the pleasure marriage, a concept unique to the Shiite sect. A pleasure marriage is a temporary marriage which can last as little as an hour. Yep, look at Armin's reaction here. He knows what's going on. Unlike a permanent marriage, a pleasure marriage does not require registration in court or the presence of witnesses. Critics say that the legislation of pleasure marriage would be devastating to the status of Shiite women and can be used to legitimate child marriage and prostitution. So there is a lot to unpack here, but basically it is trying to split personal law in a way that is uplifting the legitimacy of Shiite jurisprudence within the Iraqi state. Because, for example, the law that all these conservative clerics are trying to get turned over right now was, I think, established in the 1950s, like 1959, back in the day. And so it is heavily influenced by Sunni customs. And so this is a way to try to uplift the legitimacy and validity under the penal code of Shiite customs. Now, the problem is that my understanding is that this draft is not taking into account the fact that there are other religions inside Iraq. That's one. Two, the problem is that this is handing over an extreme amount of authority to religious clerics. And third, the problem is that the Shiite custom that they are validating through these draft bills is specifically the Jafari school of Islamic jurisprudence. And according to the Jafari jurisprudence, girls can be married as young as 9. So people are completely outraged, and they're like, we don't. The problem is that since 2003, there have been extreme conservative movements within the government that have been trying to overturn some of these things that are currently in the penal code that have been in the penal code since like the 1950s, to then make it more Islamic, make it more Islamist, make it more conservative. And I just forgot how I was going to finish that sentence. Oh my God. Oh, no, I remember. So apparently there have been other draft bills that they proposed that were way more extreme than this. And they've been fought back multiple times. And now this is the latest one that they're saying, like, there was an activist that was interviewed who was saying, like, how far are we going to go in rolling back the clock? Do you want to go to a place where we are now legalizing slavery again? How far do you want to keep rolling back the clock if you're so intent in like repealing all this stuff from 1959? So Armin, I just unloaded a lot of information, and I'm sure you picked up on a few key concepts in what I just unloaded that I want you to explain their significance to people who might not have the alarms going off.
Yeah. So, the concept that you mentioned in Iran is called sireh, which you could marry somebody Islamically for even half an hour if you wanted to, even 5 minutes if you wanted to, right? 1 hour, 2 hours, you decide, okay? For a financial reward for the person that you're marrying, and you just read a Quranic verse and state your intentions and for how much money, and then you will be married to somebody for however long you wanted to, and then you would have sex and that would be over. After that, your marriage is over, right? Which is basically prostitution, but Islamically. This is something that Sunnis hate about Shia Islam, because Sunnis correctly point out that this is just prostitution. And Shias defend it by saying that, no, we just said some magic words before, so that makes it okay. Right? So just...
No, bro, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so basically, if I have sex with you right? Me with you, and then without saying these words, I should be executed for zina because I had illegal sex in Islam. But if I just read a Quranic verse and say the intentions, and I do the very same thing, not only should I not get executed, I'm actually doing something holy. Okay. And I'm being blessed. I'm blessing this woman. I'm blessing myself. I will actually be rewarded with sex in this life and with reward in the afterlife. The difference is just some Arabic words that I'm saying out loud, and the results are execution on one side and nothing at all. This is magic. This is basically just like, what is it like? Here's the thing: when I argue with mullahs in Iran, and you're like, your liberalism is destroying the foundation of family, and the family is the foundation of society. So you're just bringing down society with your sex and your liberalism and your, all these like disgusting stuff. I'm like, okay. What disgusting stuff are you talking about? Like, boys and girls having sex out of marriage. I'm like, okay, but you're Shia. You have sirah. I could basically do the very same thing and just say some Arabic words and you would be okay with it. Like, is that allowed Islamically? Like, of course it's allowed. I'm like, well, what's the difference? They're like, those things that you said, like, how does that make a difference? Like, your atheist mind doesn't. So, like, one of these destroys the foundation of family. And if I say these Arabic words, now it doesn't destroy. Like, yeah, of course it doesn't. Now God has God's seals of approval. Like, okay, sure. I don't have to say anything. I just have to debate you and let the audience make their own judgment. One of them is the threat to the family. So why is it a threat to the family? Because husbands, if you allow prostitution in society, then husbands could go and like look at their wife and they look at these prostitutes and like, oh my God, they're hotter, they're sexier, and they're going to want to go sex with them. So they're not going to have sex with their wives and blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, but you have sireh. All of that applies to sireh. You have that as well. Like, how does that not apply? So anyways, that's a debate that I have with mullahs when I'm debating them on the Persian side, right? So that's
I don't see what the problem is.
Also, while you were talking, I was trying to look for this video. I can't find it because the Iranian government has this thing called Arba'in, and people walk to Karbala from Iran, and there's like, they claim that they have 20 million people go there every year. They claim, like, are you fucking insane? 20 million people? There's no way 20 million people are going. Like, that's like, are you saying like 1/4 of the population of the country just left Iran? Like, I'm pretty sure that has not happened. Okay, but they spend a lot of money on making this pilgrimage every year from Iran to Hussein's burial ground, which is in Iraq, to make it. It's a huge event, and the government. It's a major source of government propaganda. The numbers, because the government constantly tries to brag about how much people power it has, and because they don't do a referendum and they don't do statistical reports to show that, because they know if they do that, they will see how low of a population they have. They use Arba'in, they use the pilgrimage of Iranian people to Hussein's burial ground in Iraq, and maybe some other people's presence in the streets to show how high of a number that we have. Because if anybody understands how crowds works, even if you have a minority of the people supporting you, if you could mobilize that minority pack them into the streets, that crowd would look very, very big. And by showing the size of the crowd, many people would think like, okay, maybe they have more support than we have. Even if you only have 1% support, if that 1% is a dedicated 1%, if you bring 100,000 people into streets, you could. If I show you the size of the crowd, you might think that, oh my God, these people obviously have more than 8% support. But it's not. It's just that you could mobilize that 1% very effectively, or that 8% very effectively. Right? So that's why the government cares about the pilgrimage to Iraq so much. They spend so much money. These days, I saw a video, somebody saying like, I wasn't going to go, but they told us that they're going to hand out bananas, and now I'm going, right? Because these are poor people. No, seriously, this guy, I started like they're giving out free bananas. Like, I'm seriously like, okay, they are spending so much money. Okay, I'm going, right? So the government is spending so much money to make sure people show up to these pilgrimage stuff. But one video, so this is how this gets relevant to this news, right? One thing they mention is girls, right? And there was one guy, they get to go have sex, right? And there was one hidden camera. One guy is exposing this and say like, oh yeah, there's so many. Tell me what you want. And there was a mullah, the guy with the mullah, and like, what do you want? What kind of girl do you want? And the guy was like, oh, do you have this? Do you have this? And the guy was like, yeah, we have this. Yeah, it was pimping
and
right?
Pandering?
Yeah, pimping Iraqi girls to Iranian pilgrims, right? And he said like, Hajara, like means like holy guy, right? Is anal sex okay with them? He's like, yeah, of course it's okay. You could do that. It's allowed. Just go gentle with them. This is a mullah speaking, right? And he said like, how? And then he started talking about age, right? And he says like, we have 12, we have 9, we have 11, whatever you like, right? So that's what so that's why a lot of men go to this pilgrimage because for getting laid. So that's part of the appeal, apparently. Yeah.
Look, I knew it was bad, but that's shocking. In this video, was he like in full robes and?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Bro.
By the way, just so
how in God's name do you think you're a holy man when you're literally pimping and pandering little girls?
It's not pimping according to them because it's Islamic. They say prostitution is the label we have for un-Islamic relationship. Given everything that God makes okay is okay, it's marriage. They say they don't call it prostitution, they call it temporary marriage.
But they conveniently have a roster and menu selection.
Yeah, but because same with a wife. That's what they say. But anyways, this is why a lot of Muslims come and say like, we have no slavery, sex slavery in Islam. Yeah. What are you talking about? You have, like, I have the evidence. They're like, no, those are the slaves that you're marrying. I'm like, how do you? What do you mean marrying? What do you mean marrying? She obviously she's your slave. She obviously cannot say no. Like, yeah, but it's marriage because it's within the Islamic framework. They call it nikah. As long as it's within the Islamic framework, they call prostitution marriage, and they calling basically RIPing your slave. They call that marriage as well. As long as it is, they call all of that nikah. Marrying your wife is nikah. Having sex with your slave girl is nikah. And prostitution, temporary marriage is nikah. They all see it as this. All of them is just basically legal sex. They call it all nikah, and they translate nikah in English to marriage, and they think like, oh no, that's not sex slave. That's my wife. Like, okay, but how do you define that? And you're like, oh, okay, you're just redefining words. This is why I don't say the word nikah in Arabic should not be translated to marriage. Because if you're calling this marriage, then that's not how we use the word marriage in English. That's not marriage.
It's a contract. And there's many different kinds of the contract.
Well, it's not even a contract because you're not. It is a contract when it comes to slaves, but not with the slave because she has no say in it. It's with her previous owner. So that's what the contract is with. And also for people who are saying that like, oh my God, this is evil, but this is a unique Islam. This is not unique. I mean, the Shia temporary. Okay, so to be fair, the temporary marriage one, that is only Shia Islam. Sunnis don't have temporary marriage. Okay, But to be even more fair, they all have this part. Okay, so having sex with the 9-year-old part, again, YouTube, these are not our views, right? We're just informing how some other people. This is Sahih Hadith, right? So this is part of Sunni Islam. Shia Islam, they have their own hadith for this. By the way, in Shia Islam is actually worse because Ali did this as well. Ali had sex with Fatima when she was a minor as well, right? And they take Ali more seriously than Muhammad, right? But in Sunni Islam, at least when I say Sahih Bukhari, that means all Sunni Islamic schools of thought, they all agree with this, right? So it said the Prophet Muhammad married her meaning Aisha, when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old, right? So this is what Muhammad did. If Muhammad did this, that makes it okay. By the way, this actually, Susanna, this actually gets worse in at least Khomeini's version of Shia Islam. Dude, like the Khomeinism.
Freaking degenerate.
Right, because the understanding by many people is that if Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6, consummated the marriage, means he had intercourse with her when she was 9, right? Yeah, it does get worse. So a lot of Muslims see this they mean that sexual relationship that is not intercourse is allowed before 9. That's how they read this, right? So maybe you cannot have, again, according to this, maybe you cannot have intercourse with her until she's 9, but you can do other things. And Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, the previous supreme leader of Iran, and the guy responsible for the Islamic Revolution in Iran, he was very specific about what that thing is. And should I describe what that thing is? I don't know. I think we're going to get in trouble.
Let me think about how to talk around it. Rubbing.
No,
I don't know if we should describe it. Just Google thighing. Just Google thighing.
So imagine if you close your leg, right? Your thigh and your ankle basically touching each other. The understanding is that in-between area could be used like a hole if she's under 9. And this is published by Khomeini in his official book, and the Islamic Republic of Iran publishes that with this in there. This is their supreme leader. This is what the whole ideology of the Islamic Republic of Iran is based on Khomeini, and this is what he specifically said you could do before 9. And Susanna, how young before 9? Like, what's the minimum age according to Khomeini?
There is no minimum.
There is no. He specifically says as young as infants. He says
to specify that is
yes,
diabolical. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry we discussed it. These
yeah,
very intense. Yes.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, it speaks for itself. It really speaks for itself. And
this is an undeniable part of. So a lot of Iranians, the minority of Iranians who support the Islamic Republic, I have still not heard anybody giving us a defense for this, because this is an undeniable part of what Khomeini said. So I don't know how they defend this. Oh yeah, so Alfred is here. Alfred is saying what this is called. If you want to search for this, they call that act. The thighing, like shoving it in the thigh. That's called. It has an Islamic name. This is an Islamic name for it. It's called tafkhiz. So you could go search that up. So thank you, Alfred, for giving us. So if anybody wants to go look up what this whole thing is.
Why would anyone ever have any resentment or distaste towards this ideology when you have special terms for special acts of CSA? Oh my God. Crazy. Crazy. Disgusting. Crazy.
Disgusting stuff.
Disgusting shit.
Oh my god.
That's one of my favorite memes. Disgusting shit. Sorry, I needed that laugh because this is horrible. And
okay, it's spelled tafhi. Okay, so it's pronounced in a different way. Okay, I'm gonna find this and put it for you guys in the chat so you guys could search this, because that's not how it's.
Yeah, we're not making this up. You can go validate it yourself.
Okay, so this is how it's actually written here. If you guys want to look it up, this is how you're supposed to spell it. Tafhim, I think. Yeah. Anyways,
did you end up doing that stream in English about how child marriage is not just in the Hadith, but it's actually Quranic as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did that.
Yeah. Because I'm so freaking sick and tired of people acting like the reason why child marriage is legitimate for girls as young as 9 has explicitly validated Islamic thinking.
What I mean, some people might think I'm making this up. I just want to make sure that I give them something so they could look this up themselves.
I know, but I don't know if people want to end up on a watch list, man.
Yeah. So you read the super chats while I look this up, because I want to make sure that nobody thinks I'm making this up.
Yeah, but a lot of these questions are for you, Armin.
Okay.
Well, I'll do the ones that aren't first. So Deborah just gave a super chat just saying thank you. Well, thank you, Deborah. Thanks for supporting the show.
Thank you.
John Bunduck is bringing up a really good point. Thank you for the super chat, John. Saying this coordination framework coalition runs off of a judicial coup. This is true. The militias backing them are Khomeiniist fronts that crushed the Tisreen movement and killed U.S. troops. Yeah, so the element of Islamic Republic influence in this is not something we discussed very much in this, but it's there. And John Bundock is saying how to make cutlet without mashed or ground potato have chips. I'm going to be honest, if this is a question for Armin when it comes to cooking, Persian cooking, you asked the wrong guy. And he's going to tell you, no, and you know, Armin, it's nothing personal, but I'm just keeping it real. And Armin would tell you to go ask ChatGPT. So
well, I would tell them to go ask Susanna.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like that's a fundamental part of cutlet. Like, I don't know. Also, I'm not Persian, so I'm not as experienced in cooking Persian food. Although I do try. Oh, Lord.
So this is Ayatollah Khomeini saying a man can. You want to read this? I'm disgusted reading.
Do I have to read this? Oh my god. Okay, just to prove that we're not making this stuff up, you guys can go find this yourself. Oh my god. I don't know if I should say this because of like child welfare policies on the platform, Armin.
Well, okay, well, we are against this YouTube. I'm not gonna read it out loud. This is how I'm gonna say it. So Ayatollah Khomeini saying a man can have sexual pleasure from a child as young as baby. However, he should not. Oh, this is actually very progressive. Look at this. He should not penetrate. If he penetrates and the child is harmed, then he should be responsible for her subsistence all her life, right? So, okay. This girl, however, would not count as one of his 4 permanent wives. The man will not be eligible to marry the girl's sisters. Oh, okay. Just talking about what matters. Anyways.
I don't know how people literally use pedophilia as a slander against the entire Jewish people when like this exists. Like, holy mother of God. Or Hirschfield is asking, how can Israelis support Iranians better? Armin, you think about this a lot.
the best thing you could do is to tell other Israelis, like make sure that more Israelis know that the Iranian people are different from the regime. What we need the most is the understanding of the gap between the Iranian people, the divide between, share the videos that the Iranian people are not walking, are refusing to walk on Israeli flags is the most powerful. What you could do is show that to more Israelis. And we need to build a bridge. Like if the Iranian people and the Israeli people are alone in the Middle East and they're surrounded by fanatic ideologies that wants to destroy them, and they share the same enemy ideologically and politically. They share their enemy ideologically is basically Islamic fundamentalism based on the fundamentals of Islam, and their shared political enemy is the Islamic Republic of Iran, the regime in Tehran, right? So what we need to do is to build that bridge between each other. We need a stronger relationship, and also we should be careful not to get disappointed because of the crazies from our side, right? So Israel, we have some actual religious fanatics, racist people, and sometimes when Iranians meet those, they might think like, okay, this is all of Israel. This is horrible. They told me that Israelis are liberal. So what the hell is this? So we have to make them aware that no, this does not represent the entirety of Israel. And then we also have anti-Semites and anti-Israeli on our side. And we should just make sure that the pro-Israeli Iranians meet the more liberal-minded Israelis, and we need to build a connection and a bridge there. So if you could be, if you just talk to more Israelis and make them aware of that, it's important for us to, because nobody else is like, we are natural allies, and nobody else in the Middle East is going to come to our defense. We have similar values, we have similar enemies, so we have to defend each other in the Middle East. So that's what I am.
Can I give a very good thing that Israelis can do to support Iranians better? Israelis need to call out and hold politicians and public figures' feet to the fire when they even intimate splitting Iran's borders. There are some politicians that see allyship with the Kurds or try to weaponize Kurdish dissatisfaction as a way to undermine the Islamic Republic. You are going to lose. You're gonna be persona non grata to the liberal Iranian public if you so much as intimate, infer, hint at violating the what's the word I'm looking for? The validity of Iran's borders. Border integrity. Thank you. Don't do it. You will turn the public against you so fast. You will build mistrust so fast. So if you see public figures and politicians doing that in Israel, like, call them out. It's so important. It's so important.
Can I actually touch on that? Because thank you, Susanna. That's actually a very important point. The worst thing somebody has done, one of the greatest damages to building this bridge, has been done by Netanyahu's son, talking about dividing the Iran into different segments. And so among the very ideological religious people, they hate Israel because they're anti-Semites. They hate Jews, right? But among the more liberal-minded Iranians, they have no animosity. Like, most of them don't have any animosity against Jews, but they're very sensitive about the border integrity of Iran. And that one view by Netanyahu's son posted has been very, very, very effectively been used to scare a lot of Iranians from Israelis, right? See, just that one post by Netanyahu's son. So Netanyahu himself is more clever. He constantly talks about, Iranians' glorious ancient history and past and superior culture and the Iranian people being good. So Netanyahu himself has picked the right narrative. Again, I'm not endorsing everything he does, but when it comes to talking to Iranian people, so one thing Netanyahu does that is wrong is that when he goes and talks about the Islamic Republic, he refers to it as Iran. I've seen some Israeli officials who have realize that they shouldn't be doing that. They should say the Islamic Republic instead of Iran. So that's good. But Netanyahu himself needs to say the Islamic Republic instead of Iran so that it doesn't group the Iranian people with the regime. And also Netanyahu needs to come and talk more, be more appreciative of the Iranian people being so pro-Israeli. Like I saw his speech in Congress in United States. He didn't thank the Iranian people, and that was a major disappointment. But the main thing you need to do is to say that as an Israeli, if you want to build a unity, because we need each other, right? Is to talk about how great Iran is as a country and how it deserves much more than the regime that it has, and do not ever talk about dividing the country. That is the best way to make sure the Iranian people get run to the other side, right? That is horrible. Do not ever mention that. Do not ever advocate for that, right? And also, when I say they both need each other, because one of them has the people power, the other one has the military power. The Iranian people do not have the guns to fight against the Islamic Republic, and the Israel. So, but also the greatest weakness of the regime is the people being against it. So if you want to, so the Iranian people are appreciative of Israelis taking out the high official. So for example, when Israel kills Zahedi in Syria, that's the guy that in Iranian streets attacks Iranian people. So when Iranian people see Israel killing that guy, they're thankful, because that was the same guy that on Iranian streets was attacking Iranian girls for not having hijab. That was the same guy. So they say, like, thank you. We don't have the military power. You're making the Islamic Republic weaker by taking out these key officials. So thank you for that. But at the same time, the Israeli people need to be grateful to the Iranian people, because the Iranian regime will never come down unless the Iranian people eventually get strong enough to be able to take it down. So if you want to be the anti-Islamic Republic, your greatest weapon is the Iranian people. Anyway, sorry, I went too long.
Oh, no. It's all relevant. AJ gave a super chat saying, hey guys, can the Iranian government become lenient and secular once Khamenei dies? Armin, I know you have a lot of thoughts about this, mainly the hashtag deep state.
Yeah, of course. Can Iranian government become lenient and secular? The Iranian government, this government, no. I mean, this government, I mean, okay, if Iranian government is secular, then it's not the Islamic Republic. So the government cannot become liberal. This government cannot become liberal. This government can definitely be replaced by a government that is liberal, because the Iranian people are very liberal and secular. Yeah.
And speaking of Iraq, John gave a super chat saying Mohammed al-Sudani was human rights minister under Maliki. I'm not exactly sure what the relevance is here. I'm not going to pretend to be knowledgeable about contemporary Iraqi politics, besides the fact that Maliki had tons of anti-Sunni violence. I'm not sure. But thank you for the super chat. Kenny is asking a good question, which is, are we still monetized?
Let me actually check. I don't think so. Oh, we are. What? We are.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. But guys, I could promise you that once the stream is over, because these days that's how it works. As soon as the stream is over, that's when we get demonetized. So when we get demonetized, we get deprioritized as well. So I need you guys to like the stream. Like the stream, please, so that more people end up seeing the stream, because the demonetization makes less people see the stream.
John gave a super chat, excuse me, just a super sticker. No comment, just a super sticker. Thank you. And HD Drake gave a very generous $20 super chat saying, it blows my mind how profoundly sick Islam is regarding the treatment of women and girls, yet at the same time, two adult men loving each other requires the death penalty. Oh, naturally.
Well, because you're sick, because you're thinking with your human mind, okay? If God is real and you believe in him and you submit, then you will realize that your personal emotions cannot definitely be the right way to understand what is good and right. Obviously, the creator of the universe understands right or wrong more than your mind. It's not Islam that is sick, it's your mind that is sick. And a mind that is in line with God's understanding of creation, that is a healthy mind, that is a full submission. You could only be fully healthy if you're in line with the creator of the universe. So you are ill because you're not in line with Islam. You haven't fully submitted. Obviously, you're too full of yourself, thinking as a mortal, as a creation of God. you could understand how to live a better life more than the one who created the life. That's the Islamic answer.
And this is just a comment that I think is hilarious. SOA here in the live chat has been calling for the death of Zionists in the live chat, trying to get past YouTube's algorithm and freaking out and saying Zionist and Islamophobic. This is a major crime. Well, consider us public enemy number one.
Oh, proudly so.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? I just love to see the cope and seething. Engaged American just gave a super chat saying God clearly needs to submit to the Tao. We are like the AI that is now greater than our creator. Your wisdom is abounding today, my friend. So let's go.
Thank you. Oh, we've got another.
John Buckendock just gave a super chat saying, have you seen Iran freedom activists work with Syrian opposition or Arab Spring activists, i.e. the 3-star flag? If so, how has it gone? P.S. Maliki was awful. Oh, that's not disputed. Have I seen I have not that much, but this is not an area that I'm super familiar with.
Yeah, I mean the Arab Spring activists, a lot of Iranians were disappointed in that because they think that these like Egypt, for example, it seems like once they got rid of the dictator, they voted for an Islamist regime, and that's why a lot of Iranians think that maybe these people are not mature enough to have the democracy, right? Because Iranian people, again, I'm not saying what some Iranian people think, it's not all of them, and I don't want to generalize, but one narrative that I see in Iranian circles is that if Iran gets rid of its dictators, it will bring secular democracy. But in Egypt, when you get rid of a dictator, they're bringing the Islamists. So maybe they say that maybe these people are not ready for democracy. So that's the top down. Again, I'm not saying that, but that's what the narrative that I'm hearing, right? When it comes to Syria, I haven't seen any cooperation between activists, but one narrative that I've seen, whenever Syrian activists are mentioned, the main narrative that I'm hearing all the time is the fact that the Iranian regime, the Islamic Republic, went into Syria not to fight ISIS, but to fight the freedom activists. Because when the Islamic Republic, the Islamic Republic constantly acts like they went to Syria to fight ISIS, and they should be congratulating for fighting ISIS. But if you actually look at the IRGC's officials came out themselves and said that that's not why we were in Syria for. When we went to Syria, we were there to save Assad from these freedom fighters. ISIS came after. That was our mission, was to fight the freedom fighters who were trying to take down Assad. Okay, we need to move on.
I forgot what I was going to say. I've seen I've seen a few individual activists like collaborate with each other, but like as movements, that's not something I'm familiar with. But that doesn't mean it's
so. Let's go through the next two news quite fast. Let's just go because we need to make sure that we keep it under 3 hours, or else our video editor is not going to be able to transcribe the video. So let's go through the next two news a little bit faster than what we do with other news. Is that possible?
Yeah,
okay. All right. Let's go.
Next story is ISIS threat shuts down. Next news. ISIS threat shuts down Taylor Swift's Vienna concert after terror plot. In a shocking turn of events, Taylor Swift's highly anticipated Eras tour in Vienna were abruptly canceled due to a thwarted ISIS-inspired terrorist plot. Austrian authorities successfully foiled the planned attack, arresting 3 suspects: a 19-year-old Austrian with North Macedonian roots, a 17-year-old youth, and there's not much known about him yet because of, anti-disclosure things, and an 18-year-old Iraqi national. The main suspect, the 19-year-old, allegedly quit his job saying that he had, quote-unquote, something big planned and intended to detonate an explosive device within the concert venue. There was also, I saw some reporting about a potential, vehicular jihad. Authorities discovered explosive devices, detonators, and Islamic State propaganda material in his home. Interestingly, the suspect's lawyer, his defense lawyer, attempted to downplay the plot, claiming that her client was quote unquote playing with ideas and that the bomb wasn't of good quality and wouldn't have worked. Well, fans were left heartbroken by the cancellations. Event organizers and Swift's team prioritized safety, with Barracuda Music announcing, quote, "We have no choice but to cancel 3 scheduled shows for everyone's safety." This incident not only highlights the ongoing global threat of terrorism, but also demonstrates the swift action taken by authorities to protect concert goers.
Swift action? Was that on purpose?
That was not on purpose, and I didn't even catch that.
Okay. I thought. Okay.
So here's the thing. So according to reporting online, they're just saying, oh, these kids were just radicalized online. But somehow they gathered all these materials. They had ISIS materials. They had machetes. They had the initial materials for a bomb, but apparently some of the chemicals were missing. So they wouldn't have had the materials necessary to do it effectively when the actual concert occurred. So the authorities were really worried that they would resort to something else that they could do, like a vehicular attack. I think they maybe even had firearms, and they clearly had some form of organization, and they had pledged their allegiance to ISIS online. And then now one of the suspects was saying, "Oh no, I deleted that. I deleted that afterwards." And the defense lawyer is like, "Oh no, he was only interested in ISIS for like a month." It's I'm like, that's not a good argument. If it is only a month, is there no like, you got this bad within the span of 30 days, bro? Like, excuse me? And so this put this concert, on. I saw a little bit of conflicting information online. So there was some reporting that I was reading that led me to believe that the authorities had felt they had successfully tackled the threat before the concert actually happened. And then some were like, oh no, they're still making some arrests or detaining people for questioning. So there might be more going on. And then other people are like, oh no, it was safe, but then her team canceled it anyway. So maybe they just canceled it to just be extra safe. Like, there's a little bit of a reporting that's a little bit opaque to me. But I think one thing that's important for people to understand is that this is an extremely serious situation, and that artists that are this big have to invest a lot of cost into protecting their own fans and go out of their way to try to protect concert goers. Because we saw what happened when in Manchester, Ariana Grande, her concert was attacked and 22 people died. I think over 1,000 people were injured. That was so horrible and really like terrified a lot of major artists, because they have a responsibility and a culpability when their event is drawing in tens of thousands of people to one place at once, which automatically makes those kinds of events a very important target. And I think that the target of the concert hall is also important for ideological reasons, not just convenience reasons. So, in many ways, something like a Taylor Swift concert can really represent like this so-called Western degeneracy that someone like an ISIS member would absolutely hate. A single woman in her 30s, unmarried, no children, dancing around, singing songs, shitting on her ex-boyfriends. and leotard and sparkles and dancing, and there are all these other girls loving it and celebrating it and loving her message. It's so antithetical to what a freaking jihadi values. And I think it's also important to consider how the target of these concert venues are important because of the message that it sends. And Armin and I were having a discussion about this recently about maybe Armin can explain, but basically the power of the shitter. And I think you should explain that metaphor that we were talking about a few days ago, but which is basically your ability to cause chaos. And the target of that chaos being the youth of a country in a concert sends an important psychological message, psychological warfare upon a country, saying that you cannot even protect your youth. You cannot even protect your children when they are in a setting of innocent celebration, like Ariana Grande's concert, Taylor Swift's concert, the Nova Festival in Israel. You know, just out there having fun, celebrating, living life, experiencing joy. Like, we will strike you hardest and inflict brutalities upon you that are unimaginable in the heart of those celebrations, and you can't do anything to stop us from massacring your youth. And so I think that's another reason why these concerts are a very attractive target. But Armin, now that I mentioned it, do you want to explain your metaphor of the shitter?
Let's bring it up another day, because I don't want to do it in this show because we're running behind. I just wanted at this come to I thought this was the end of ISIS, because after when you go after the Swifties, I thought like they're just going to arm up and rise up. I mean, their concert was canceled. I was pretty sure that they're all just going to go buy weapons and just go to Africa, Middle East, and everywhere else ISIS is, and just to finish the job. I was almost sure that this is a red line that they're not going to. Oh, wait, let me ban this guy, because when you're not spamming, I will tolerate your bullshit, SOA, in the live chat. But once you start spamming, then I have to ban you. So I got rid of SOA. But go on.
You know, the Swifties are a powerful force that will strike fear into the heart of their enemies. Also, the barbs of Nicki Minaj are notorious for their viciousness and toxicity. But who I am most terrified of is the BTS army.
No.
If ISIS ever did anything against the BTS army, you might have weaponized the force like more powerful than Mossad. Like, God help me if I ever cross the BTS army. It's no joke.
We actually have a mullah YouTube channel that he used to get a lot of views, and now he gets so many less views because most of his videos is about Islamically explaining BTS and their songs.
No.
Yes. It's so weird. Like, I don't know.
No, wait. You want to please immediately tell me more.
Oh my god, it's Mustafa Shub here.
I love this comment. Amir is like, BTS army, even the Zionists aren't that crazy.
No, I think he's obsessed with BTS. I don't know why. If I could hold on, I actually use my Mustafa Mohammadi, because I don't have a Persian keyboard. I have to read out. Like, yeah, look. Okay.
BTS is a K-pop band, for those that don't know. And the BTS fans are it really needs to be studied on their power to weaponize their fan base.
Hold on. I'm gonna do this quick. Just give me a second. Let me show you one of his covers, okay? Bring this up.
This is
so, but this is like he has so many videos covering BTS, and they don't get that many views. And I'm like, your other videos get so much reviews. Why are you constantly? Okay, he stopped recently, but for a while, he was obsessed with talking about BTS, and I never understood why.
I'm dying. This is hilarious. Islamic analysis of BTS. Oh my gosh. See, this is another reason why I wish I spoke Persian, because this is the glorious content I'm missing out on.
This is amazing.
Oh my God.
He goes over their lyrics and like, is this one Islamic? They mention the devil. Why are they mentioning the devil here? What is the context here? Like, he goes into so much details over the lyrics and the drama around them. What happened here? Like, people are criticizing them for that. They were at this restaurant. Some of them, this person did this, and like, are they being criticized fairly? What do you guys think? And then there are other Muslims attacking him. There are other Muslims attacking him. Like, why are we? What BTS as a whole is un-Islamic? Why are you defending these guys? And then he made a whole other YouTube video saying like why his defense of BTS is not un-Islamic. I'm like, what is this? I don't understand this.
BTS versus Islam. Armin, I think he's
not attacking them. He's defending them.
He's part of BTS army, and this is the only way he can express it.
Yes, yeah, I think so. Because
he's a K-pop fan, and he can't just be honest and be like, "This is awesome." Didn't you debate him? Didn't you have an in-person, not in person, but a virtual debate with that guy? That's cool.
Yeah. I had 3 debates with this guy. That's why.
Was this the guy that insulted your dogs?
No,
that was a different dude. Blue Sapphire saying the BTS army are worldwide, the more united, different people of different mindsets, more effective than the entirety of the UN.
All right, we need to move on to the next.
They call them army for a reason, guys.
Okay, we need to go. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes, we can. Next news, defying the Taliban inside Afghanistan's secret beauty salons. In defiance of the Taliban's 2023 ban on beauty salons in Afghanistan, a clandestine network of underground parlors has emerged, revealing the resilience of Afghan women in the face of oppression. A special report by The Guardian unveils how beauticians and their clients risk severe punishments to maintain these secret havens, which once provided employment for over 60,000 women and served as a crucial social space in the country. Forced underground by the Taliban's strict interpretation of Islamic law, salon owners have adapted by transforming homes into covert beauty salons or offering mobile services, all while navigating the constant threat of informants and surveillance. One client stated, quote, "Like every woman in the world, I want to be beautiful. The Taliban can stop me from working and walking alone, but they can never be able to control my beauty. It's all I have left." This act of resistance highlights the broader struggle of Afghan women against the erosion of their basic humanity since the Taliban's return to power, underscoring the vital role in these hidden sanctuaries play in preserving a sense of normalcy and autonomy in a rapidly changing society. So I wanted to cover this story because, like I said at the top of the show, it is one thing for us to just talk about how these ideologies need to be opposed in our own countries and communities or in Iran, for example. But what we always need to be highlighting and celebrating are the people that are actually living under these regimes, facing the consequences and what they do on a daily basis, even in the smallest of ways, to resist collective submission. Okay? Because this is what it boils down to. It boils down to the submission of individual rights to the collective. And that's something that's always going to get me fired up. And so I thought that this article was really interesting because the Taliban banned beauty salons because they think that doing your eyeliner and getting your eyebrows done is un-Islamic. I wish I was exaggerating. And so there's now these secret
nails too. Nails especially because when you're doing the wuzu, it's not going to touch your skin. So when you're doing the wuzu, okay, the water is supposed to touch all all the way here to your fingertips, to your nails, right? So if you have permanent nails that is covering your actual nails, then the water is not going to touch it. So your wuzu is not complete. So all your prayers are not being recorded by angels or whatever.
Yeah. And so this was, devastating to a lot of people. These salons are how a lot of women, had jobs, they provided for their family. And so a lot of women, despite the severe risks, which can include like, beating, imprisonment, or just getting extrajudicially killed by the Taliban, essentially, they take the risk also because they still need to find a way to provide for their family. And they've developed all these special techniques to undercover, like, this is punk. This is real punk here. Go get your nails done and your eyebrows did to resist Islamofascism. Now that's fucking punk, okay? And all their little techniques to be subversive in this way are so interesting. Like this idea of this woman under her burqa still finding a way to make herself feel beautiful, make herself feel like a person again, even in the smallest of ways, despite the fact that probably no one is going to be able to see it. But still, it's something that she holds within herself to retake her individuality herself is so subversive and powerful to me. And some of their methods to hide their salons are so interesting. So one of the women talked about how at her home salon, what she does is if she has a client, they have to come visit her shop, her hidden shop, wearing a burqa of a certain color. And she's like, I know if you're wearing this color burqa, then you're coming to come see me. Otherwise, I'm not going to open my door. Like all these little secret code words and stuff. And I thought this was really powerful because it goes back to something that is such an important concept. And it is that the first thing that man has control over is his own mind. The control over your own mind is the first and last freedom that can be taken from you. And I really feel like just the simplest thing of doing something simple to make yourself feel beautiful, to make yourself feel desirable as a form of self-expression is really a demonstration of that concept. But we have some videos that we can show for this, but maybe before we get into that, I mean, Armin, do you have any initial reactions to this?
Yeah, my aunt had back in the day when Iran was more like the regime in Iran was more aggressive towards this stuff. My aunt lived with us, and she had clients in her house. So her room in her house was basically a secret. It was a salon, an underground hijab salon. So I kind of know. I mean, it wasn't as aggressive as the Taliban, but it wasn't like she had a salon that she couldn't have legally, but she was operating in her home. So we kind of had a secret salon, underground salon in our house during my childhood for a while.
That's cool.
But yeah, let's show. Yeah, but let's show the video that you.
Armin was a part of the secret network. So this is an older video, but this is just a demonstration of what's going on here. So this is from a few years ago, but this is dudes going around painting black paint over any image of women.
Yes. So it's not just your makeup that is illegal. Having pictures of women, you see that one up there? So that's a woman's face. Oh, that's haram. Obviously, that should be painted over. So let's watch them paint over that. Yes, cover that. Cover that. People are going to be lusting over pictures of women in the streets. We can't have that.
Yeah, and what do we get instead?
Oh, I can read that, by the way. It says Zibaye Shabnam. So it means, how do you say Shabnam? So beauty, Zibaye means
salon,
beauty,
parlor.
Shabnam. No, Shabnam is like silk? Or no, wait, hold on. I'll go look at that. Shabnam. No, Shabnam is a little water on the leaf at night. Okay, I'll go look that up. Let me see. All right, so that's.
Oh, and then they got to paint over that too. God forbid you just see the words.
Frost? That's what you.
Like dew.
Dew, yes. That's what it is. Yes, dew. Yeah, you're right. It's the what is it's dew. Yes, you're right. So that's what Chip. It's a girl's name. All right, what is this video?
Oh, this is a woman being interviewed about these like secret beauty practices.
By the way, Harris was here.
Hey, hi, Harris.
Yes, he's saying, hope you are not finishing up. I just saw you guys are live. Harris, you should go back. This live was so good. You should, once we finish, you should go watch from the beginning. It was really good. So make sure you do that. Anyways,
Harris, also go watch Armin's live stream yesterday about the drama between the African American voters and the pro-Palestine movement. You need to watch that, Harris. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, so good. Anyways, let's watch this.
And working tools or
okay, so this is the African woman who's running the secret beauty.
Even we can arrest you as
کرای خونه میامد پول او برق گاز خلاص میشه بچه مریض
Do you want to read the text?
Sure.
So you control it and read the text.
Okay.
So she's been arrested. And she's been talking about she's responding.
I don't think she's been arrested. I think she's just talking about the secret practices.
Oh, okay. So that's why they're not showing her face. Okay, go.
Yeah, exactly. So she was saying like I basically in the beginning she's talking about how she turned to this because all of their money for everything to survive ran out.
Oh, so they're
کرای خونه میامد پول او برق گاز خلاص میشه بچه مریض میشه
Yeah, like my kids got sick, I got sick. I used to see
خود میبودم شوهر میمیدم بیکارن افسرده
like my husband was jobless. He ran out of work. He ran a cargo bike. Yeah.
She's speaking Persian. I understand her, but go on, yeah.
I saw that there was nothing that
شدن دیگه نامزرنج داشتن بعد از اینکه دیدیم خب کار نیه
nothing could be done. Like I was sick as well. We had no other option but to sell the motorbike.
خود من بیکارم من مریضم بچه‌ام اصلا مجبور شدیم زرنج خو بفروشیم خرج خو کردیم
It was not possible to keep going on. I bought this table.
بعدها دیگه نشد مجبور شدم میاره
and chair and started my beauty practice again.
وقت داشتم چوکی آرایشگری کردم خیلی اول خودم خیلی افسرده شدم.
At the beginning when the salon was closed, I was very depressed when I was at work.
زمانی که می‌دیدم برام مزاحمت ایجاد میشه آرایشگاه مبستنش
They were troubling me and saying that my parlor was
بالاخره زندگی خانگانه کردم می‌دیدم که
What was that, Armin?
No. She said Zendegi. I just wanted to go on. No, I will talk.
When I was looking at my life, I knew I was going to face a lot of challenges, but it is complicated when you have children. You have a shared life. You can't just leave. Oh, this is very interesting. So then she goes on, she's like, when someone knocks on the door, the customer freeze and ask, what should we do? It's like, oh, I'm telling them to calm down and relax. No one's there. It's just the children. It's the neighbors. It's fine.
You know, I know that feeling because that's the feeling we had in Iran when we were partying or having fun, right? Any knock on the door is like, oh my God, my life is over because I was having fun, right? So imagine, like, who's that? Is that the cops? Imagine always like being so terrified. So you're at a beauty salon, you're just getting makeup. And imagine how important it is for people. So the desire to look good and be, it's such an important desire that people need to fulfill. Like this is a human nature that we need this, or else people wouldn't be risking their lives for it, right? You could see how fundamental of a need this is for us, for people to be risking so much so that they worried about the knock on the freaking door. For what? Because they're in a beauty salon. They feel like, oh my God, I'm going to get arrested. Imagine how much anxiety you have to go through that you're going and getting like makeup and every knock on the door it terrifies you and you don't know what's going to happen. right? But I know a little bit of, I know their fear is much more than what I've experienced, but I'm familiar with them. Right? I am very familiar with the sight of police just bringing chills down your spine, because your entire life is against what is approved, right? And a lot of Iranians, when they leave Iran and live in other countries, one thing that I noticed they talk about a lot is how different of a perspective it is, that when you see the police, you have to get used to the idea that this is not a threat, and eventually get to the point where when you see the police, you think security. When you see police, you think like, oh, safety, I am safe now, this police is here. You don't think like, oh, this is police, it's a threat to me. You actually think, oh, there's police here, I'm safe. That shift in mindset is what a lot of Iranian people talk about when they're leaving Iran and living in like Western countries. And it's so fundamentally different.
A lot of my friends have talked about that. Yeah. Yeah. So this is why I like to highlight, what it's like to actually live this full blown, and the little things that people do to resist it, just to feel normal, to feel like an individual again, an individual in the face of total submission. And that instinct is just so inherently human. It's this thing that our nature just seems to inherently be attracted to, like a moth to a flame. So interesting how it can't be extinguished.
We have 4 minutes, so I'm going to quickly go through the comments. Asian American saying, thank you so much for the super chat, saying, I want a BTS Iranian rap crossover now. Okay, that's cool. Thank you for the super chat.
Hell yeah.
And you highlighted this one, D.
Oh yeah, D is saying, the women are like, have all this makeup on, or they're presented like all under their burqa, and they do this so that they can provide for their family, especially because they're basically allowed no economic option besides.
But this also shows how makeup and looking good is not just for others, it's for your own self as well. Because then you put the makeup on, and then you have to cover a lot of it up. I mean, in Afghanistan, you still don't have to, it's not mandatory to cover your face still. But again, a lot of this is about just feeling good. It's not just about other people seeing you as pretty. It's about you just being, you're expressing your individuality. That's what it's about. Levantix was saying, is this Dari? Yes, this is. So the reason why I could understand her is because she's speaking one dialect of Persian in Afghanistan, which is called Dari, and I really like the accent. It's I don't know why, but it's different from how we speak Persian in Iran. It's a different dialect, and I could still understand most of what she's saying. And I don't know, for some reason, I really like the way people in Afghanistan speak Persian.
Yeah, even with the just sprinkle of Farsi that I know, I'm like, oh wait, I can understand her a little bit.
Yes. Oh, also yes, exactly. Sandra is confirming. It's for yourself most of all. Yes, exactly. So it's your image representing your identity. We need that. We that's a very fundamental human desire. Anyways, so we're gonna go. So thank you guys again. This video will get demonetized as soon as I end the stream, so please go ahead and like the stream. Please go ahead and leave a comment, say for the glory of the YouTube gods, something like that, or just praise them if you can't think of anything, and also subscribe, hit the bell notification, and recommend this channel to as many people as possible so that this channel could grow. And appreciate all of you guys, and thank you so much to Susanna for all the work that she does. To D, Susanna and D, you have no idea, guys, how much time they put behind the scenes to make this news possible. Like, insane the level of work that they do. So thank you so much for it. Thank you. I really appreciate that, guys. So mention, like, if you can't think of anything to say, leave a comment saying thank you, Susanna, thank you, D, and also the rest of the team. A lot of the other people who we cannot mention the name, they make this possible. So thank you to all of you. All right, guys, bye.
Tune in next week.
Yeah, and thank you, Dolly and Alfred, for the other streams. Appreciate your work as well. Bye.